Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the December 14th, 2020 City Council meeting. I will now call the meeting to order. Sorry for the delay. Please note that this meeting is being attended by the City Council and staff via Zoom teleconference. Thank you for your patience as we continue to navigate city business through this meeting process. For the benefit of the public and as required by the Brown Act, the vote will be by roll call. City Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Yes, Mayor Sistarsik,
Can't hear me, I can't hear.
Mayor Sistarsik, Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick,
Here.
Councilmember Moore,
Here.
Councilmember Masalagat,
Here.
Councilmember Verapapa,
Here.
Mayor Sistarsik.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Sorry, gosh. Okay, we'll move on to approval of agenda and waiver of full reading of resolutions and ordinances. By motion of the City Council, this is the time to notify the public of any changes to the agenda and or rearrange the order of the agenda. Does anyone want to pull a consent calendar item? Okay, thank you. Well, none then. City Clerk, do we have any supplemental communication?
Yes, Mayor, we received 4 supplemental communications that has been distributed to council and uploaded to the city's website.
Okay, thank you. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So
Motion.
moved.
Okay.
I'll
is there a
second.
Okay, thank you. City Clerk, could you take the vote by roll call, please?
Yes, Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Verapapa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalagat, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, that's approved. Thank you very much. We'll move on to presentations and recognitions. Seal Beach COVID-19 Local Emergency Review. Chief Gonchak, could you please give us a report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and good evening to you and the rest of City Council, City Manager Ingram, City staff, and all listening / watching in tonight. As most of you are aware, on Sunday, December 6th, 2020 at 11:59 p.m., we slipped unfortunately back into another governor-issued stay-at-home order. This was done in part due to California currently having a total case count of 1,598,389 COVID cases and 21,080 deaths. With that, we are now first in the nation for highest COVID-19 case counts and are still third in the nation for deaths behind New York and Texas. Today's most up-to-date Orange County specific COVID-19 numbers equal a total of 105,764 cases and 1,694 deaths. Ages of death range from under the age of 18 with 1, ages 18 to 24 with 4, 24 of them aged 25 to 34, 42 aged 35 to 44, 360 aged 45 to 64, and 1,263 of those deaths are aged 65 and over. The difference in genders is males with 945 deaths and females with 740 of them. Orange County hospitals currently have 1,287 cases hospitalized and 288 of them in the intensive care unit. This count equates to over 500% increase in hospitalizations over the last month's figures. Furthermore, the ICU cases have since increased nearly 4 times since last month. As of today, Orange County has reported 0% adjusted ICU availability and 9.3 unadjusted ICU availability. Next, some bordering municipality and Seal Beach data. City of Long Beach has 20,697 cases with 295 deaths. That was last updated this past Saturday. City of Huntington Beach with 2,734 cases. City of Cypress now at 1,128 cases. City of Los Alamitos with 423. Garden Grove with 6,456. Rossmore at 82. and Westminster at 2,605. Sadly, Westminster has more than doubled their case count since last month, with Cypress, Los Al, and Garden Grove also seeing almost a roughly twofold increase in the last 5 weeks as well. Here in Seal Beach, we now have 491 confirmed cases according to the Orange County Healthcare Authority website. This is an increase of 120 cases from our last council meeting. Unfortunately, I must report to you that the county website has been updating our numbers daily. And as of tonight, we are now at a total of 39 deaths here in Seal Beach. With that, 33 of those deaths can be directly attributed to the skilled nursing facility cases, and we are unaware of where those 6 other deaths have occurred. Other than their formulated or tabulated back into the city of Seal Beach count, those 6 other deaths could be in some other skilled nursing facilities. However, they listed their home address here in the city. Based on the way the state and county are reporting these 491 Seal Beach COVID-19 cases, 393 of them appear to be actual Seal Beach residents. The remaining 98 can be directly attributed to the Seal Beach Health and Rehab skilled nursing facility outbreak. We still receive a daily report directly from our skilled nursing facility. And because of this, I'm happy to still report that since August 4th, 2020, there has been only 1 patient and 1 employee who's tested positive for COVID-19, and it has been quite a while since their last positive test. Sadly, the same cannot be said about the Sunrise Assisted Living Facility on Lamson. Through both random and voluntary testing, they now have 11 patients and 9 employees who have tested positive and are currently quarantining in their solo occupancy bedrooms or at home. They are currently working with the county on best practices for containment of this current outbreak. Next, I wanted to take a moment to discuss the death rates, as I have had an inquiry regarding these figures. Overall, the death rates for COVID-19 nationally is 1.8%. Again, that means out of 100 cases, 1.8% of those cases actually end up in death. The state of California at 1.3%. The state of New York, by contrast, is at 4.5%. And more locally, here in Orange County, we are at 1.6%, and Seal Beach is at 1.2%. I want to note that these death rates are largely non-reflective of the current surge in cases. The World Health Organization, or the WHO, has reported that the time of symptom onset to death varies from anywhere on an average of 2 to 8 weeks. So it's quite likely that these rates, which are based on the recent surge of positive cases, do not include the deaths that will occur as a result of these recent incidents. Moving on, the Orange County Fire Authority calls for service involving infectious diseases from December 1st to December 13th, 2020, total 1,568. Seal Beach is just over 1.5% of those calls for service, with a total of 24. This is a decrease compared to last month's trend. However, it should be important to note, however, that the OCFA's total infection calls have almost doubled when compared to daily data for the previous months. Gloria, if you can go to the next slide for me while I speak about that in a minute, that would be appreciated. As we've been asked by several residents to present the COVID-19 or updated COVID-19 graph issued by the Los Alamitos Unified School District on their website, losal.org. Please see such in front of you all tonight. As you can see, the following schools have the following number of COVID cases that was updated today. Los Alamitos High School is a total case count of 29 for students and 9 for staff. Site population percentage is 1.3%. If you go down a little bit more towards the center, specific to Seal Beach, our elementary school of McGaw has 4 student cases and no staff being reported, for a site population percentage of 0.556. At the bottom, there's a total there that gives the number of individuals with confirmed positive cases of 74, with a number of household with confirmed positive cases of 66. And this just basically means that a couple of those children actually live or reside in the same home. With that, I was just notified that the Los Alamitos Unified School District has announced this evening that to protect the health and safety of both their staff and students, they will be moving to distance or virtual learning effective Wednesday, December 16th at the high school in Los Alamitos. Again, Los Al High School will be moving to distanced or virtual learning effective this Wednesday, December 16th. And Mayor, that's all I have. Unless you have any other questions, I'll be finished. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone have questions for Chief Gonchak? Okay, well, thank you very much. We're going to move to the Orange County Sanitation District, Los Alamitos Trunk Sewer Project 364B update. Public Works Director Steve Leiter, could you please give us a report?
Thank you, Alderman Mayor. I'd like to introduce Kathy Mealy, and she is the Director of Engineering for the Orange County Sanitation District, and she'll be giving the presentation tonight.
Thank you so much. I'll do a sound check. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Well, thank you for having us here today. My name is Kathy Millay. I'm the Director of Engineering at Orange County Sanitation District. And we are here today to talk about the Los Alamitos Trunk Sewer Project. That's a construction project that will be starting up in 2021. And there's two other projects we have going on in Seal Beach. One is the Westminster Boulevard Sewer Project. That's in construction. You might have driven by it. And we also are in the design process for a new Seal Beach pump station. So I'll touch on each of those, but mostly focus on Los Alamitos. I have 14 slides, and I was told I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to make it to that time frame. I'll tell you a little about Orange County Sanitation District, the reason why we're doing this project, the scope of the construction work and its schedule, and then the impacts specifically to Seal Beach. And then I'll touch on our public outreach program. And before I start, I just want to say I realize it can be intrusive when another public agency comes in and does work in your city. I know you're already dealing with the 405 project. We have a very proactive asset management program. We have about $11 billion in assets. And our goal is to try to keep all our sewers intact so that there was never a sewer spill. But occasionally, about every 50 years, we're going to have to come through and do a project. And our goal is to work with the city and the residents and to make it as painless as we possibly can. Next slide, please. So who we are. Orange County Sanitation District is the wastewater treatment plant for the north central part of Orange County. We serve a population of 2.6 million people, which makes us the 6th largest agency in the country. We have 388 miles of regional trunk sewer. Those trunk sewers bring sewage to one of two plants, our treatment plant number 1 in Fountain Valley or our treatment plant number 2 in Huntington Beach. And I'd like to point out actually that our Assistant General Manager, Lorenzo Tyner, is a resident of Seal Beach. So he proudly represents your city. So slide number 3. Here's the 3 projects we're going to be talking about. I'll go first with Westminster Boulevard. This is located in Westminster Boulevard between Seal Beach Boulevard to Rancho Road. It's currently in construction. Began construction in April 2020, and the work in the city of Seal Beach should primarily be completed by next summer. Then it will move on over to Westminster. And then I mentioned Seal Beach Pump Station. There's a picture on the screen. That's our current pump station. We're in the process of designing a new one. We just finished the preliminary design. And the design per the city staff will be based on City Hall. So it's the architecture will be California early mission style. But what I'd really like to spend time on tonight is the Los Alamitos trunk sewer. That's in green on your screen. We're going to have to rehabilitate pipeline and then work on manholes. Next slide, please. So here's the project team, myself, Kathy Millay. Daisy Covarrubias is our Principal Public Affairs Specialist. She is also on this call and can answer questions at the end on our outreach program. And then on the public line, we have listening in Hardet Kubal, our project manager, his supervisor, engineering supervisor, Raul Cuellar, and Dicky Fernandez, the project engineer. Slide 4, please. So this is the scope of the Los Alamitos trunk sewer. As you can see, there's 2 lines, one on either side of Los Alamitos Boulevard. The pipelines run parallel to each other. And then when they get up to Catella, it goes just a little bit to Oak Street and to Lexington. The pipelines were constructed in 1959 and 75, so it makes them 45 to 60 years old, and the sizes are from 30 to 39 inches. Next slide, please. So why are we here? What's the problem? Well, there's three major problems with the stretch of infrastructure you saw on the previous slide. Where all the sewer pipes connect together at the joints, there is water coming in, groundwater that comes in. And for some reason, we only have it in this part of our service area, there's calcium that comes in. So there's calcium in the soil. When there's a hole in the joint, it comes down and creates these calcium deposits. That's what's inside this photo. And the problem with the calcium deposits are it takes up capacity in the pipe, so there's less room for wastewater. And also when we bring our equipment out there to clean the sewers, it chews up our equipment and tears it up, and it doesn't allow us to clean our sewers. And the reason why we have calcium deposits is because we have these leaky pipe joints. So we want to clean out the calcium, fix any pipe joints that need fixed. And then along the ways, we have periodic manholes, and they are deteriorated. Some need to be replaced, and some we can just reline without having to replace them. And I'll step through each one of these about how we're going to resolve these issues. So next slide, please. So for the calcium deposits, the first thing we're going to go in is we open up a manhole and we drop that piece of equipment in that you see on the screen, and it will go down and it can water jet and it will remove all the calcium deposits. The nice thing about this, we do not have to tear up the street. Like I said, we just open up the manhole, drop this in. So there's not a lot of noise issues. We tend to do this work at night because there's low flow when we can. The impact to the city on this would be some lane closures. Next slide, please. So once we've cleared out the calcium, again, we drop in some equipment right through the manhole, as you can see on here. And this equipment's going to go to every joint, and it's going to do an air test. If the air test passes, then there's no infiltration, and we're okay. But if it doesn't pass, meaning that's where water can get in, the equipment that's there can stop, and it can do a gelatinous chemical injection to seal up that joint and then continue down the pipeline. Again, through a manhole, so we don't have to dig up the street, but we do have to close lanes to get to the manhole. Next slide, please. So for the manholes, we're either going to rehabilitate them. There's a reline them, a picture on the upper right. So we don't have to open anything up. We just open the manhole lid, but we do, as you see, we'll need to take up some lanes of traffic. There are some other manholes that need to be replaced. And so in that's the one instance where we're actually going to have to dig up asphalt or concrete, and it does get loud and dusty on those places. Next slide, please. This is our schedule for the work. We're going to advertise in January, and we will award it at our board in April, and then construction will start in July. The total project will be done in February of 2023. So it's about a 20-month construction. 8 months of those will be within the city of Seal Beach. And when we were working on this and the timing of this, our staff met repeatedly with the 405 project, trying to ensure that these two projects could go on together with the timing of what they'll have to do within your streets. Next slide, please. So this just shows the work that's happening in Seal Beach. The two blue lines, turquoise lines, that's just showing where we're going to be working inside the pipe. And all the holes are manholes. Some are manholes we have to replace and dig up, and other ones we can just line. So when we're doing a project like this, and there's a lot of work to be done, we cross different cities, we do a lot of effort working with the city staffs and the communities. We actually did 2 surveys here to see what would work best for the residents and the business owners and the city staff in these areas. And we heard here what we normally hear, which is a lot of people say, kind of do what it takes. We just want you to get in and get out. That's probably the first thing we always hear. And also we heard what we normally hear, which is we asked, do you want the work done during the day or at night? If the work is done during the day, there's lane closures and that can impact the traffic. If we do the work at night where there's less traffic, well, at some points it can be noisy. And if you're trying to sleep near that, that could impact your sleep. So anywhere where there was a commercial area, the response we got back was, we'd like you to work at night. We want to keep the lanes open during the day as much as possible. And conversely, in the residential areas, it was the opposite. They said, please do the work during the day, because come night, we want you to be gone and we want to be able to sleep. And so with that, I'm going to walk you through how we're sequencing this project that we're going to have the contractor work through. And these were all things worked through the city staff. So the next slide's a build slide. And here's our work area. And then if you could advance the next slide. So here's one. We overwhelmingly heard from the Seal Beach area that they would like us to work at night because there is a lot of business area. So you'll see we went through this on the whole project. I'll take them one by one. This area of the southbound commercial area, they'll be working Monday through Saturday, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And there is one section that we're going to have loud activities in the Rossmore area till 10 p.m., but then it's going to be quiet and we can work in the day. Next, can you advance, please? This one was requested to be day. It's residential. Next, please. Here's one again, nighttime. So they'll work Monday through Saturday, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. This one is a little bit different. It's right on the border of Los Alamitos and Seal Beach, and there's 3 manholes we have to work on. Los Alamitos wanted one, Seal Beach wanted another. So the compromise that we made with the cities was to work on Saturdays. We'll do 1 manhole each of 3 Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then here, another residential area. So they've requested we work during the day. I think there's one more. Again, so commercial area, so we'll be working at night. So we really tried to work with the cities on coming up with a plan that would work best for the community. Next slide, please. So community outreach, this is something we take very serious. We put a lot of effort and resources into it. We have an extensive outreach program, and we actually started during the planning and design phases as we reach out to the cities and the residents. And the intent of the program is to just inform and educate the public about who we are, why we would need a project, what the project's all about, how we're trying to mitigate the impacts, what to expect, and really to be available for questions. So you can see on here, we have a community liaison that's assigned to every project. Daisy Covarrubias is on the phone, and I'll let her address it. And she's going to go through all these things we try to do to assist the city, the residents, as we do this work through the area, so they're informed what we're doing, how long we'll be there, what to expect, and who to call if there's an issue. So Daisy, would you like to tell them about our outreach program?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. So as Kathy was mentioning, we have a very extensive outreach program. Knowing that we have multiple projects occurring in a very close proximity, we try to make sure that the community is aware that if they're at this moment experiencing the Westminster project, that next summer they'll also be experiencing the Los Alamitos project. So we create programs that all work together in a cohesive manner to make sure that we give the public the full picture of what it is that they're to expect. So as Kathy mentioned, there is a community liaison that's assigned to every single project. This person is a day-to-day contact, is aware of what is going on each individual project, and is the contact for the community. If they have any questions, any concerns, any issues, this is the person they would reach out to through the construction hotline that is available 24/7. There's a phone number and an email address that we answer at all times of the day, on the weekends, on holidays, it's always available. We send out notifications and alerts to the community, letting them know well in advance of the project that's taking place, of what activities to expect. And then as the project progresses, we also send out notifications letting them know of what is coming up, what is occurring, what activities they're going to be seeing in the coming weeks. All of the information for the projects are posted on our website. There's a dedicated page for each project that has all of that information available. When we do make a website update, we send out an email alert to those that subscribe, and we also send out text alerts. We do social media posts to reach the audience in that manner as well. We do meetings and presentations such as this one. We also reach out to some of the HOAs and other groups in the area that are interested and available to us. We have information signs, such as the one that you see in the middle of the screen, that identify this project as an OCSAM project, and also provide the contact information so that the public is aware of who's doing the work and how to get a hold of us. We have electronic message boards like you see in the middle of the bottom of the screen. And we also work very closely with the cities, with Seal Beach, Los Alamitos, with the Rossmore Community Services District. So any entity that is involved, we work closely with them to coordinate our efforts and make sure that we're discussing what's going on so there are no surprises. Next slide, please. And here is just our contact information. As I mentioned, we have a construction hotline. It is manned by myself and the other liaison that is on this, that supports the outreach program, our email address, our website, and our social media handles where you can find information on OCSAN as a whole and also on the projects that are taking place. So that was a quick little synopsis of what it is that we do. If you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer those. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Daisy. And I want to thank the City of Seal Beach for allowing OCSAN to come and speak on our project.
No, thank you very much for that's great information. Did anyone have questions for Ms. Malaya?
I have a couple of questions. This is my Councilmember Verapapa.
Councilman Verapapa?
Hi, can you go back to the slide that had all the little circles for the manhole locations, please? Yeah, that one, that's great, thank you. Northbound and southbound Seal Beach Boulevard is 3 lanes each way. Will those be maintained throughout the project duration?
On there will be lane closures. At some points, we're going to have just one lane open at the time, depending on where that manhole is in the street.
Right, while you're working, right?
Right.
I understand that, but like, let's say, like you showed the other graph, like it opens up at 6 a.m.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Will those tents be open, or will there be
no, Daisy, you can correct me. The idea is that we would, we had those hours of working. When we're not working, we have to remove the cones and bring the lanes back to use for the public traffic.
The 3 lanes will be in operation like during the daytime most of the time, or?
For the night work, yes.
And then the day work, I guess it's just closed. Can you go back to that graph where you're doing the work during the day and the night and all that good stuff, the time frame? Are most of those manholes in what lane number are they in? Like lane number 1, lane number 2, or lane number 3? Do you know offhand?
I don't. I'm going to see if Daisy knows. I do have our project manager and project engineer. I'm going to have them text me.
I mean, and the reason I ask is I know that that's a heavily used boulevard there. And for example, many of us, including myself, go northbound Seal Beach, Los Alamitos Boulevard to Catella to take our children to school, almost every day. And any restriction in that corridor is just very cumbersome, I guess. Did you get in touch with the school district at all? How's that working out?
Hi, yes, let me jump in really quick and answer that for you. We did work with the Los Alamitos School District. We had them, Kathy mentioned earlier in the presentation that we did a community survey. So we had a survey that went out to Rossmore, Steel Beach, Los Alamitos, but specifically we shared it with the school district so they can send it out to their parents so we can get feedback from the parents, knowing that there's a lot of people in Steel Beach that do take their kids to school in Rossmore. And that is part of the reason of why the day work is starting at 8:30 on the northbound side, as you can see.
Right.
To make sure that parents had enough time to take their kids to school, do the drop off, and then head out. So the pickup is going to be challenging, but we did make sure that we at least had a later start time, because typically construction would start at 7 a.m. That's a usual start time for most of these projects, but we did adjust that in our contract to allow for the drop-offs. And to answer your previous question about what lanes, it's going to be lane 1 and 2. That's where the construction is taking place. So those are the lanes that will be unavailable as the work is occurring.
So between those hours shown on this slide, that's when you only have one lane open at a time?
So correct. As you see, like say northbound and southbound, it's not going to occur at the same time. So let's go with northbound. You would be driving this in the morning to drop off your kids. At 8:30, 2 lanes would go away. And so there would only be 1 lane open.
Yeah.
So
well,
from 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m., there's only going to be 1 lane
yeah.
in that area shown, the residential area that's highlighted.
Yeah. Well, as you're aware, most of the schools, if not all of them, are on a hybrid system. So they're going anywhere from 8:30 to 11:30 to 3:30 or 3 o'clock. So they're going all times of the day. It's not the normal, go in at 7:50.
Right. And so yes, correct. And so a lot of this planning took place pre-COVID and pre all of the, current situation. So this was planned according to a traditional school schedule.
Right.
And hopefully, by the time that this project does start, which is next summer, things will be back to normal, and we will have a regular traditional school start time, so that maybe a little bit different.
So like, for example, the residential northbound and southbound Los Alamitos Boulevard residential, from 8:30 to 9 p.m., you'll have 1 lane open.
Yes, but it's only going to be, we're only going to be working on one side at a time. So
Right.
if we're working on the northbound side, the southbound will be completely open, all 3 lanes.
But after 9 o'clock, do 3 lanes reopen, or is there just a closure of 1 lane permanently because you got a trench there? Or will you cover that trench up at
It'll be covered up.
so 3 lanes will reopen again at 9:30 or 9 o'clock, 9 p.m.?
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's going to be an interesting project. And it's not pipeline, it's just manholes. It's not like
Yes. So
at Westminster.
correct. So it's going to be moving. We're not going to be in the same area for an extended period of time. It'll be moving. So as soon as they complete a manhole, they'll move on to the next, and so on and so forth. So for the residents that are in that area, the people that are backing that street, they'll see that, the activity moving along. And of course, the traffic control will only be in that specific area, and then it'll move on and get further along in the project.
At any time, do you anticipate a full roadway closure, either northbound or southbound?
A full closure, like meaning all 3 lanes are shut down?
Yes.
No, that is not intended, unless, of course, there is an unforeseen accident or something, were to occur. But no, there is no plan to close all 3 lanes at all. That's not
Right.
that just wouldn't work. Yeah.
And it's not as extensive as the Westminster project where you're doing the whole pipeline, correct?
Correct. So the Westminster project is replacing the entire pipe, right? So that's, and there's also 2 pipes, one on each side of the road. So that is a different project.
Right.
This, like we mentioned, it's mainly the manholes. The work that is going to be occurring at night is also the pipeline work, which is what we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the cleaning of the line and the grouting. That will occur at night
Right.
in every section.
Right. And then when you repair the roadway, how does that work? You just patch those holes that you dug. You don't patch, I mean, anything else, I guess, right?
So it depends on the agreements with the cities or what the requirements are. It's typically just the lane. The manhole may be in, say, lane number 1, but we need space to work, so we take lane number 2. That doesn't mean that there's an excavation on lane number 2. So it's typically just the lane where that area was excavated that is repaired.
But not the entire lane, just the hole itself, correct?
Correct.
So you won't go from manhole to manhole, replace.
Correct.
Because a lot of damage is done around the excavation itself. I've noticed, particularly on like the Westminster project. It's not just where they're doing the work. If you look on the adjacent lanes between removing the striping and all the heavy equipment and all the excavation materials and stuff like that, it's caused quite extensive damage on Westminster. And I'm not sure how much, that is taken care of with the project, or a new project will come in to correct that.
And I'd like to jump into, I do know that our staff met with the City of Seal Beach staff to coordinate the pavement work.
Good. Yeah, they're
And the paving will be I'm just getting a message, the paving will be the entire width of the lane.
okay.
And if the contractor does damage something else, then the contractor will have to fix that too.
Yeah. Oh, good. And how recent were you with did you reach out to the school district? Because, and the only reason I asked that is because I have a child in the school district and I haven't gotten any notice from them. I mean, I could have overlooked it, but I'm just curious how recent that was, if it was,
this was probably, it was probably last year. So this was over a year ago when we reached out. As you know, like designing these projects takes a very long time. So we did reach out to the school. I don't have the date offhand, but I want to say it probably was about a year and a half ago when that happened.
Oh, wow. Well, they've had a lot of changes in a year and a half. I would recommend highly that you reach out to them again, in the near future, because that's an important corridor for their schools, their high schools. They have
absolutely
elementary schools off of Catella Avenue and off Seal Beach Boulevard. I mean, it's just Oak Street. It's just kind of hectic without.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is definitely something that is part of our efforts to reach out to the schools well in advance. As we mentioned, construction's not scheduled to start until the summer. So we'll start our outreach efforts earlier than that.
Okay.
Much earlier than that, to make sure that we're communicating and informing everybody. We just know that this current school year has been very uncertain and chaotic. So we couldn't really base a lot of this on something that was hopefully, temporary. Right. But yes, we'll definitely coordinate with the school district once we have a contractor on board and we have a better idea of when we're going to actually start. But we'll start those efforts early on so that the parents are aware and have plenty of time to plan.
Okay. Are you going to notify the residents in Seal Beach and Los Alamitos with a flyer of some sort, or how does that get out to the public?
Yes. So what we do is typically we'll start off with a letter or a flyer and a fact sheet that kind of gives like general information about the project and about who OCSD is, so they know what is going on and why it's going on. And then that'll be general and that'll go to a very broad area. And as we start getting closer to actually starting construction and we have a specific area with specific start dates, then we'll do another more targeted notification with more details and more specifics as to what it is that they can expect to see. And that'll also include our website, our email and text alerts, trying to get more people to sign up. We'll work closely with the cities involved, with Los Al, Seal Beach, and Rossmore, with the school district, to get those notices distributed by them as well, to have them posted on websites and share on any like community forum or platform that they have, so that we can get that messaging out. We'll also have signage out there prior to construction to make sure that people are aware that this is coming. So one thing to consider is that obviously this is a very, there's a lot of commuters that are coming through this area that don't necessarily live in the area. So that is the hardest group to reach out to, because it's not, we can mail to them, we can drop off a flyer at their door. But the people that do live in this general vicinity, and even like Leisurewold on the other side of the freeway, we will be reaching out to them and with a direct mail piece.
Right. Any planned detours?
There is no detour as part of this project, because there will be lanes that remain open. So there's no established detour.
No alternative routes? Okay.
I mean, we could, it's always, you know, people can take the 405 to the 605, exit Catella if they want to avoid that area, but there is no established detour.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone else have questions for Ms. Malaya?
I just had a quick question on
Tom Moore?
Yeah, on the Old Ranch Parkway. It goes to 2 lanes. So, and you're going to be working on that during the day. Won't you need to shut that down, or we just offer 1 lane with? How's that going to work?
Daisy, you're probably more familiar with that one.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to leave 1 lane open, so there's always access that is maintained.
Okay, with some people with walkie-talkies or something.
Yeah, so there'll be, you know, cones or delineators.
Daisy, I think you may have cut
to
out.
block off the construction or something of the sort. Yes, but there will be a 1 lane will remain open, and that'll be clearly marked and accessible so that people can drive in that area as well. It won't be restricted or blocked off.
Okay.
Daisy, you cut out, and I'm not sure if they heard. I think you were going to mention that we will have flaggers out there during that time.
Yes, sorry, thank you. Yes, there will be flaggers as part of the traffic control that will help facilitate the kind of the little reroute of the traffic around the construction area, but 1 lane will remain open.
And then is the project scheduled to do, you know, from one spot, you know, from one, like, are you going to start at a certain location and end at the other end, or are you just going to kind of work at the same time throughout the whole project? Like, are certain areas going to be completed first?
That's the idea. We do have the work sequence. So typically some of it's the means and methods for the contractor, and but they won't be able to take all this down at the same time. They're only going to be able to take out a certain area at a time. What they sometimes do is say they sequentially, you know, do all the work, then move on to the next section. Sometimes they do temporary paving so that they can then at the very end come back, and then we'll do a permanent paving through the whole project site.
Okay.
So one thing that I did want to mention, they're only going to be allowed to do 3 manholes at a time, and then they'll move on. So it's not like they're going to start excavating all the manholes on the eastbound side and then, you know, just tear them up and go all the way through. So they're only going to do 3 at a time and then move on.
Okay.
So it is
okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay,
yes, absolutely.
Excuse me, are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation. A lot of good information, and we'll look forward to getting more as we approach the summer. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
having us. Bye-bye.
Sure. Okay, we're going to move on to the next recognition, which is retirement recognition for electrician Bill Moran. I'd like to call on Public Works Director Steve Miter, please.
Thank you, Alma Mayor. There's Bill's picture. Bill joined the city team 42 years ago. He served as the city's electrician during his tenure, keeping our water system and sewer system pump facilities operational, in addition to keeping our traffic signals well maintained. When asked about his retirement plans, Bill said he was looking forward to getting back to travel post-COVID, including exploring Civil War sites in the South. Bill has been a dedicated employee to the Public Works Department and the city as a whole, and he'll be missed. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our next retirement recognition for management analyst Nancy Ralston. I'd like to call on Assistant City Manager Patrick Gallegos, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. I've worked with Nancy for almost 9 years. From that first day I interviewed with the city, I was greeted with her smile and kind words. Now that may seem like a small gesture, but in many ways her personality and general friendliness to this total stranger convinced me that Seal Beach might just be the place for me. In the ensuing 9 years, I've worked side by side with Nancy on challenges big and small. Her willingness to help others, to be generous with her time, and to do her best in sometimes difficult situations has endeared her to me and many other staff members in the city. Some of you don't know this, but Nancy's office is directly across from mine. And on many occasions, you would find us shouting across the hallway about this new policy or personnel matter that just arose. And on those really stressful days, I might sometimes catch a tune emanating from Nancy's office, most likely some obscure indie rock band that I never heard or haven't heard in many years. What some of you don't know is Nancy is really super cool. Not just because she likes these mysterious indie rock bands, but more because she has gone above and beyond for current and retired staff members, our residents, and for me many times. She's done this without hesitation and without the desire or need for accolades or a pat on the back. She did it because she cares. Now I could enlighten you, but more likely bore you with some very interesting HR policies, recruitments, and legislative wins that Nancy and I have been part of over the years. Okay, only Nancy would probably find them interesting, so I won't. Because for me, that's not Nancy's legacy. For me, Nancy's legacy is the friendship that I've built with her over these past 9 years and the bonds she's made with other staff members and residents in this town. In Nancy's case, her legacy is not about checking boxes because she has checked numerous boxes in her decades worth of work in the HR field. Her legacy is one of kindness, generosity, and a lifetime of public service. Nancy, you will be missed for sure as my co-partner in HR, but I will hold dear the memories we shared and cherish our friendship, which will continue as you begin your new life in retirement. Thank you, Nancy, for making Seal Beach a better community and for many years of service. Best of luck with your retirement and especially with those new grandkids. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Yes, she is indeed a kind and happy person. Would anybody else have comments? Okay, well, we wish Nancy best on her retirement and good luck with the grandkids. Thank you. We'll now move on to a retirement recognition for Police Officer Brad Davis. I'd like to call on Chief Gonchak, please.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's certainly that time of the year where everybody seems to be piling on the retirements. Officer Brad Davis began his career with Seal Beach on September 21st, 2009. During his time of service with the Seal Beach Police Department, Officer Davis served as a patrol officer, field training officer, and spent just over 3 years as a member of the motor unit on a motorcycle. Officer Davis was also a member of our peer support program, joining the team shortly after its inception all the way up until his retirement. Most notably, Brad will be missed for his electrical and general handyman expertise, as he had a hand in many of the police department's employees' home renovations, pun intended, over the years. Similarly, Captain Ezra says he would like for you to make sure he finished his garage ASAP, please. And Brad, you'll be missed. Thank you for your Seal Beach service, man.
Thank you. And if Brad Davis is on the call, we will welcome him to say a few words. Do we have Brad? Hello? We can't hear you. If you're there, we can't hear you. I'll give you another chance maybe to unmute. Okay, well, I'm hearing a slight noise, but I can't really hear. So we'll move on. But if you come on, we'll give you another chance. So we're going to move on to special counsel recognition for Los Alamitos Unified School District Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Nancy Mean. I'd like to call on City Manager Ingram, please.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Tonight, on behalf of the city, I wanted an opportunity to personally thank Nancy for her dedication and commitment to our community. I was honored to serve as a member of the community interview panel over 3 years ago that recommended Nancy as a finalist candidate for her current position as Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for the Los Alamitos Unified School District. Little did I realize at that time how impactful and meaningful Nancy would be to our community. For those of you that know Nancy, she has an incredibly infectious energy and love for people, and most importantly, is so passionate about children, and she has been engaged at every level in support of our community and the surrounding communities. As the council knows, the city is extremely proud of our close partnership and working relationship with the school district. And Nancy has been a key member of this very successful joint effort over the past 3 years in ensuring open communication and really working together in partnership to support the children of our community, both in school and community-related activities. I especially felt it was important to highlight tonight that Nancy has really been vital in the city's response to COVID-19 and was the city's primary contact for me, our police chief and his command staff, as well as my staff team. And she went above and beyond to ensure that the school district was fully supporting the city's efforts to adhere to all city and county public health orders, as well as continue to communicate over the last several months about all the impacts to schools to us so that the city was updated on all school district matters related to school closures, reopening timelines, and safety measures, especially those at McGaw School, given that we operate several recreation programs at that facility. Having worked alongside Nancy for the past 3 years, I have the greatest level of respect for her, both personally and professionally. In a short amount of time, she's proven herself to be an incredibly dedicated and respected leader in our community. She's been fully engaged in our community at every level and is a fierce and loyal advocate for children and their education. And truly, that is her legacy. Nancy, all of this to say that you will be incredibly missed by me and the city of Seal Beach, and without a doubt, an incredible loss to the Los Alamitos Unified School District, students, teachers, staff, and the communities of Seal Beach, Los Alamitos, and Rossmore. We thank you for your dedication, commitment, and service, and especially your friendship with all of us as we congratulate you and wish you the absolute best as you move to the Anaheim Union High School District to do what you do so well and give back to their students, faculty, and staff. Congratulations. And Mayor, I know I have a couple staff members as well that really wanted to comment and say a few special words to Nancy as well. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Chief Phil Gonchak.
City Manager Ingram. I had the pleasure of serving on the Los Alamitos Unified School District Working Group with Dr. Nguyen. Needless to say, she's been a phenomenal resource for not just us at the police department, but for the entire city of Seal Beach, as you mentioned. She was a leader for the same school district that I've been blessed to raise 3 daughters within, and I'm very thankful for her leadership. As you stated earlier, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how infectious both her laugh and smile is here at our organization. She'll be truly missed, and I only hope her replacement is as approachable and kind as she has been over the past few years. All the best to you, Dr. Nien, and please don't ever hesitate to contact me if you ever need anything in the future. Your monthly treats and sweets will be missed by many of my staff. Be well and enjoy your new venture.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. And for those of you that know, she makes the most incredible homemade apple pies as well. So hopefully, Nancy, you'll keep those coming when you have time. And then finally, I wanted to turn it over to Marine Safety Chief Joe Bailey to say a few words. And then I know Nancy would like to say a few words as well. Chief Bailey.
Thank you, City Manager Ingram. I just wanted to say that, you know, working at the McGaw Pool, I have a chance to work closely with Nancy. And it's hard to describe that our meetings are always fun and they're always positive because she's so friendly. And I always talk about the great relationship that the city has with the school district, especially in regards to the McGaw Pool. And I think that has a lot to do with Nancy, and I appreciate you for that, Nancy. And I'm really sorry to see that you're leaving. And I can just say that along with Phil and I, all the best, and we know you're going to do great. And maybe eventually you'll be back in the LaSalle School District again, hopefully. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Neen, would you like to make a few comments?
Yes, that'll be great. So, well, first of all, thank you so much for all those kind words. I mean, the city of Seal Beach, all of you guys have been so just kind and open to our school district. It's not what we can do for you. I always feel that you guys are just a phone call away. I mean, anytime anything happens, I pick up the phone and, you know, a police officer or anybody, even the chief, it's right there. And so I want to thank you guys for all the partnership we have for the last 3 years. You guys are literally a phone call away, and what you guys do for the children of Seal Beach and beyond that, even the programs that you guys have at the high school as well. So thank you so much for all the things that the council has dedicated to the community. I do live in this area as well, and so I get a lot of those benefits. And so thank you so much for all your hard work. Jill, you've been a great friend, and I know that we will continue to even do many things together. Chief Phil Gunchak, thank you. You are literally a phone call away. Anytime there's any event, I can call you, and you're right there. And you can send somebody to me within literally 2 minutes of anything that can happen to our site. So thank you so much for that. And of course, I'll always bring you apple pie anytime to the staff at the police station. So definitely I will do that. And all the brownies and cookies, I know that the staff really love those. And finally, Chief Joe Bailey, thank you. When we needed the pool, when we didn't have one this year as we're building our new pool, and you literally said, whenever you guys need, just let us know. And so thank you so much for all your efforts, and especially during this period. This has been such a different era for all of us. And we do hope that this pandemic will go away soon. But in the meantime, I do appreciate everything that the city of Seal Beach and as well all the council members and the mayor, what you guys have done jointly with our school district. So thank you so much, and I'm around, and I will keep bringing those goodies to everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all you've done for our children. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, I believe Chief Gonchak has Officer Brad Davis on the line now to say a few words.
Great. Come on back. Chief Gonchak? Brad?
Can you guys hear him still?
No, we can't hear anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Go ahead, Brad.
Hello.
There we go.
Okay, I'll do this again. I had some problems earlier. I was so frustrated with the computer. I was like, oh, I'm here. I want to talk. Anyways, I just want to say thank you to the mayor and city council for the plaque that I was given, acknowledging my time. I had the greatest time working with Seal Beach. I miss it. And I was always proud to be a police officer in Seal Beach. It's such a great community. And currently with your command staff, with Chief Gonchak and his leadership, and his command staff, what a solid agency it's turned into. I mean, I joke that I wish I was one of those disgruntled employees because it wouldn't be so easy to leave, but that's not the case. It's the complete opposite of that. So just wanted to acknowledge that. And one other person I'd like to acknowledge would be City Manager Jill Ingram. She's always been so nice in every contact I've had with her. From first contact to the day of the salon heritage incident when she showed such concern for me and my family. And, we lost a family member and friends in that, but through that and every other conversation has just been awesome, and she's just a great leader herself. And I will actually, although I didn't see her a whole lot, I will miss her. But I just wanted to show everybody there that you have just such an awesome police department. And I was proud to be a member of it, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Good night, you too. Okay, thank you very much. That's it for presentations. We're going to move on to oral communications. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council cannot discuss or take action on any item not on the agenda unless authorized by law. No other business shall be considered. All email comments the city clerk received before the start of the meeting were distributed to the city council and made available to the public on the city's website. Email comments received after the start of the meeting will be forwarded to the city council after the meeting. City clerk, do we have any emailed comments?
Yes, Mayor. We received 2 email comments that has been distributed to council and made available to the public.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have the city attorney's report. City Attorney Steele, do you have anything to report tonight?
Mayor, excuse me, members of the council, prior to the meeting this evening, the council met in closed session regarding the 2 items on the posted agenda. All council members were present and took no reportable action.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to city manager report. City Manager Ingram, do you have anything to report?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I have a few items to share tonight. First, the police department issued a press release today regarding the new process to purchase and renew residential and guest parking permits. As you know, the city will transition to a new online permit platform starting this Thursday, December 17th. And a link to the new online permit platform will be available on the city's website. For residents and businesses who need any assistance with any online parking permit issues, please call the customer service department at 800-989-2058 or the Seal Beach Police Department Parking Bureau at 562-799-4100 extension 1119 or via email at parking@sealbeachca.gov. Second, as has been standard practice for the last several years, City Hall and the Public Works Yard will be closed for the holidays this year, beginning on Thursday, December 24th through Friday, January 1st, and will return on Monday, January 4th. The Police Department and Marine Safety Departments will maintain regular business hours and are exempt from the holiday closure. Staff will be issuing a press release soon that will also be available on the city's website regarding the holiday closure, including impacts to trash pickup, street sweeping, and building inspections. Third, since this is the only scheduled meeting for the month of December, on behalf of me and our staff team, Mayor Starsik, I wanted to personally thank you for your leadership and support over this past year in your term as mayor, especially given the many, many hours that you've participated in weekly Orange County Mayor's meetings and several other community-related meetings regarding the city's response to the ongoing and significant impacts of COVID-19. And needless to say, none of that was ever expected when you were elected mayor last year. And I just wanted an opportunity to personally thank you for your leadership this year. And then finally, especially want to wish the council and our entire staff team and your families and the community a safe, healthy, and peaceful holiday season and a happy new year. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to council comments and council member reporting pursuant to AB 1234. I'll start with council member Bear Papa. Do you have comments tonight?
No, thank you. No comments today.
Okay. Councilman Moore, do you have comments tonight?
Yes, I participated in the Seal Beach Christmas parade that the Lions put on last week, and it was great, nice to see all the kids enjoying the parade spread out throughout Seal Beach with social distancing as the car parade went by. Just a reminder to everyone to support our local businesses, especially restaurants, by ordering to-go orders. Don't forget that restaurants and retailers at the shops at Rossmore are part of Seal Beach, and support them as well. Shout out to Patrick Gallegos and staff involved in the Office 365 upgrade. I'm glad that it got implemented this year. Not only does it make the email more secure and reliable, but there's a lot of functionality with collaboration software to help staff work together. And I'd like to just thank the city and the city council for wonderful 4 years, and I look forward to another 4 years. It's been a pleasure working with many of the staff and the city council, and I look forward to working with all of you going forward. And happy holidays and have a great new year. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Masalava, do you have comments tonight?
I have nothing to report. I'd just like to say Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope this is a fruitful holiday for you, even though we have to stay home alone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick, do you have comments tonight?
I don't have anything to report, but I also would want to wish everybody a happy holiday season and thank all of the residents for helping to get through the pandemic by following the directions and getting us through to the other end. So I want to thank everybody and thank our great staff and city manager and the other council members for all the hard work that none of us anticipated that we'd be involved in at this time of year. But thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to thank the city manager for her kind comments. I've enjoyed working with her this year. All the staff, city clerk, everyone gets my emails. I've also enjoyed working, even though it's been a lot with to participate in calls with other mayors and the county government. I really enjoyed it. A lot of good coordination, camaraderie, and I really enjoyed it. The OC mayors, there's 34 of us that have been on weekly calls during this pandemic, discussed a lot of extra things, and they're really excited about continuing the work in this new year. So our new mayor, I'm hoping to bring into the call this Thursday night, and a lot of new mayors they're on the call, but all happy to work together to support Orange County and also, you know, some of the issues we've banded together and written letters to be, you know, proactive or supportive of various programs or issues. So I'm really excited. A couple of the cities have formed a committee with the mayor and the past mayor on there as an alternate to make sure that these continue. So anyway, it's been work, but it's also good work. So I appreciate making, you know, those who started those up and making them available to us. The last month I participated in a ribbon cutting wild nature at 207 Main Street, an airport land use committee meeting, regional military affairs committee meeting. I also wanted to thank OCTA for a virtual webinar they did this last week regarding upcoming work on the Almond Avenue sound wall. If anyone missed that, it's available by going to octca.net/405 improvement. There's a recording there with some good information and a very nice way to put out the information to my residents. So I just also like to wish everyone happy holidays, whichever you celebrate, and please try to be safe. We'd like to keep you healthy and well in the new year. So that's all for me. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to council items. First, item A, declare results of the Seal Beach City Council District 2 and 4 president. Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to City Clerk Harper.
Thank you, Mayor Sistarsik. Mayor and members of the City Council, the item before you tonight is to adopt Resolution 7092, certifying the results of the November 3rd general municipal election and the swearing in of the newly elected city officials for a 4-year term ending 2024. The canvass and certification of the election by the County of Orange, specifically by Neil Kelly, the Orange County Register of Voters Office, was completed on November 25th, 2020. Council District 2, incumbent Thomas Moore received 2,292 votes, whereas his challenger Carol Damasi received 1,022 votes. Therefore, I declare Thomas Moore council member for District 2 for a 4-year term ending 2024. Council District 4, incumbent Mayor Shelley Sistarsik ran unopposed, and she received 2,739 votes. Therefore, I declare Shelley Sistarsik council member for District 4 for an additional 4 years ending 2024. The recommendation before you tonight is that the council adopt the resolution declaring the results of the November 3rd, 2020 election and swear in the newly elected city officials for a full 4-year term, 2021 to 2024, District 2, Thomas Moore, and District 4, Shelley Sistarsik. With that will conclude my report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Did we have any questions, comments? Anything? Okay, well, thank you, City Clerk. I appreciate all your hard work on the election. Thank you very much. I'd like to call for a motion to approve this item in a second.
I'll move.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, could you please take the vote by roll call?
I'd like to just verify the motion. Was that council member, was that Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick?
Yes, it was.
And it was second by?
Sandra.
Masalabit. Okay. Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Vera Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Thomas Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries 5 votes yes.
Okay, thank you.
And at this time, we'll play the pre-recorded video of the swearing in.
I
I, Thomas Moore,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that
I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I,
Shelley Sestarsik,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support or defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation
or
purpose of evasion,
that
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the consent calendar now. Items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and are enacted by a single motion with the exception of items removed by council members. Okay, we have, I'd like to call for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. We have no items removed.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. That's true. Okay, we'll ask the city, if the city clerk could please take the vote by roll call.
Mayor Sestarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Vera Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, that carries 5-0. Thank you. That takes care of the consent calendar. We're going to move on to a public hearing. That's item L, approving a eucalyptus tree permit to remove eucalyptus trees for the Lamson Avenue Bike Lane Gap Closure Project, CIP ST 1811. I'd like to call upon Deputy Director of Public Works, City Engineer Iris Lee.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, and City Manager Ingram. This is Iris Lee, your Deputy Public Works Director / City Engineer. The item before you tonight is a request to approve a eucalyptus tree permit for the removal of 3 eucalyptus trees at the northeast corner of Seal Beach Boulevard at Lamson Avenue, as shown on your screen. This will accommodate the intersection's traffic signal modification as a result of the 405 widening project and the Lamson Avenue Bike Trail Gap Closure Project, which proposes a westbound Lamson Avenue bike lane that will be joining the existing northbound Seal Beach asphalt pathway that's also serving as a bike lane right now. Staff also consulted with the city arborist where removal is recommended as these trees have been exhibiting decline in recent years. Staff finds that these considerations are consistent with Seal Beach Municipal Code Section 9.40.020B3 and recommends approval of the eucalyptus tree permit. This concludes my report, and I'm available for questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions for City Deputy Public Works Director / City Engineer Lee. Okay, I had a couple questions. I was wondering if we had informed the tree committee that this work would be going on, just to not be shocking people, or
So the removal of these trees have been consulted with the city arborist. It was never brought to the tree committee formally, as the municipal code says that this tree permit must come to the city council directly.
City council, okay. I was also concerned in the arborist report that it said the tree had been distressed, or let's see, what's the word, not doing well. I wanted to make sure that the trees along Seal Beach there are being watered regularly. I think they're calling for a El Nino this year, which means we may not have a lot of rain.
Yes, we have been speaking to our city arborist, Joe Talarico here, and the irrigation is working properly here, albeit though, I'm not a tree expert, but he did say that these eucalyptus tree does have a tendency of showing decline at certain times.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I have. Did anyone else have any questions?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay, Sandra.
With the removal of these trees, it's going to expose the maintenance yard at the golf course. Those buildings are pretty ugly, and the fence line along there is less than optimum. It's pretty scrubby. Is there going to be any replanting in that area?
So yes, it will be a little bit more exposed. However, we do want the bikeway path to be visible to the public. We have been working with the Old Branch Golf Course, though. There are areas that we are going to be cleaning and grubbing, and we're working in partnership with them to identify some new landscaping opportunities in the area as part of the bike trail project.
Okay, thank you.
I had another question. I was trying to determine from the staff report if part of this area is needed for the new signal that will be installed later on by Caltrans. Is that going to be taking up more room or part of this area?
It will actually. So as part of the 405 widening project, there is a traffic signal modification that will be taking place hopefully within the next half a year or so, if not sooner than that. The traffic signals are going to be upgraded in size, and the location will shift as well. That's why we were not able to find, we were recommending the approval of the tree removals to provide an alignment for this bike trail project, as the traffic signals are going to be taking up some real estate at that location as well.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to go ahead and open the public hearing then. City Clerk, do we have any members of the public on the call wishing to speak?
No, Mayor, no members requested to speak tonight.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing. Are there any additional questions from council members?
Do we know what exactly is wrong with the eucalyptus trees?
I can consult with our city arborist to get the exact details of the health of those trees and respond back to you.
Do they need to be removed, I guess, for that reason, or is it for some of these changes?
It's a combination of all of it, as there has been some debris that has been generated from these trees as well from the area, and which may have a possibility of falling into the public right of way.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Okay.
I have a quick question, Councilman
Sure.
Rivera-Papa.
Okay, is it Mike?
Yeah, can you briefly describe where the bike lane will be, or where is it going on your drawing? Is it shown on the drawing?
Not, it shows the existing pathway. So this corner will actually be widened slightly to accommodate a bike lane that's going to be along Lamson Avenue, where you see that word existing right of way. It's going to hug that dashed line and curve northbound to that existing pathway that's moving northbound to Seal Beach Boulevard.
So will the bike lane be on the road or will it be on the path?
Good question. So for the most part, eastbound and westbound on Lamson Avenue, it will be on the road. But when it starts hitting the maintenance yard of the Old Branch Golf Course, it does go up along the sidewalk curb area behind the curb.
And you don't have a drawing of that configuration?
I don't have that readily available, but if I may, I could definitely provide you a conceptual drawing of what we have so far.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious of how how the existing compares to the future, so to speak.
Absolutely, I could definitely provide that.
Thank you.
I have a comment. Can we hold off? Can we hold off on making this decision until we get more complete plans to see where the bike lane is going? If this is a granted bike lane, you must have some preliminary drawings of it somewhere.
We definitely do. And we are at the 90% design phase already. So the plans are pretty well detailed. I just don't have it readily available to present to you for tonight's meeting. So my apologies about that.
I hate to wait another whole month.
Yeah, it would be what, January 11th is the next.
Yeah. But I
Would
don't
that,
know.
does that,
I don't know.
does that schedule?
Do we feel that we have enough information?
I tend to agree with Sandra. I think we need a little more details.
You know, these particular eucalyptus trees are not any beauties, but I hate to see them taken down well, I'd like to see why they need to be taken down in relation to the project.
Is there time if we wait till the January 11th meeting to look at these?
Will it impact the schedule if we delay?
Yeah, thank you. That's what I'm trying to say.
We could definitely continue it for January.
Okay, all right. Do we, it sounds like we have consensus then that to go ahead and do that.
Mayor, I just suggest that you, just to be on the safe side, reopen the public hearing and continue it with the public hearing open.
Okay, I'd like to reopen the public hearing and then we will continue the public hearing to Monday, January 11th. Okay.
Can I make another comment?
Sure.
Would there be time to get this to the tree committee?
Well, I imagine we can inform the tree committee. I've spoken to my representative and he said he hadn't heard about it. So
yeah,
I don't know about everyone.
Okay. Maybe they ought to be notified. At least notified.
Just for notification, if nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah.
We will definitely do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, before you move on to the next item.
Okay.
I was just going to suggest that the council consider, since we have not had a break since we started closed session at 5:30 and moved right in to the 7 o'clock meeting, and because we still have some items left here on the agenda, that after the water and sewer rate study update that we take maybe a 5-minute break, and then we would reconvene to finish up the balance of the meeting. Just a suggestion.
Okay, that sounds fine. So after the next item. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to unfinished continued business, the water and sewer rate study update. I'd like to call upon Director of Public Works, Steve Miter, please.
Thank you, Alma Mayor, members of the council. I will be presenting the update, water, wastewater rate study update, and Steve Gayon will be presenting as well. So I'd like to just start with an introduction here. So the purpose of this report is to highlight, first of all, to highlight any rate study findings and recommendations that have changed as compared to the rate study findings and recommendations at the September 14th council meeting. And as a result of running additional models to reflecting postponing the new water sewer rate effective dates from January 1st to May 1st, 2021. I'll keep going. Okay. So provide an opportunity to review the final draft of the Proposition 218 notice prior to being sent out to our residents and water and wastewater customers. Provide an update regarding steps remaining in the Proposition 218. Can you go back one slide? Thank you. So just a quick background. We retained Ratellis Financial Consultants back in November 2019 to prepare a comprehensive water and sewer rate study for the city of Seal Beach. Ratellis has 120 consultants nationwide that specialize in helping water, wastewater utilities develop financial plans and set rates. Steve Gayon is the project manager of the Ratellis team for the Seal Beach's effort, and as noted, has 22 years of experience setting rates with extensive experience throughout Orange County, again, assisting municipalities and water districts. Next slide, please. For tonight's agenda, I will be presenting the first set of slides that further detail the need to adjust water and wastewater rates. And then I will be handing the presentation over to Steve Gayon, who will be presenting the updated rate study recommendations and findings regarding the financial plans, proposed rate adjustments, and bill impacts for both water and sewer utility enterprise funds. He will then present how the total combined water and sewer utility bill will affect customers that receive these services from the city. And at the conclusion of the presentation, the next steps in implementing the proposed water sewer rate adjustment will be discussed. Next slide. Of course, we've seen this slide before. It's just common terms used when discussing water and sewer rate studies and overall just the terminology for rate studies. Next slide. Okay, so we'll go into why review water and wastewater rates. Next slide. The city's last comprehensive water rate study was conducted in 2010, and the city's last sewer rate study was conducted in 2005. Since these dates, the cost to provide these services has continued to increase every year. The current water rates no longer generate sufficient revenue to meet the various water system operating cost drivers as noted above, as noted in the slide. Moreover, major capital improvements of over $16 million is needed over the next 5 years, resulting in an operating deficiency in the Water Enterprise Fund that will further be detailed in the next slides. Also, given that it has been over 10 years since the water rate design has been thoroughly reviewed and 15 years for the sewer rate design, staff has determined that an updated comprehensive water rate and sewer rate study was needed to redesign the city's current rate and water rate structures through implementation of current textbook rate setting principles to increase fairness and equity among the city's water, utility, and sewer customers, and to ensure consistency with current Proposition 218 interpretation. Next slide. Okay, so this slide here shows the CPI over 20 years. At upper line clearly shows that essentially utilities such as water and wastewater and trash are increasing at a much higher rate than normal goods and services. Next slide. So the city's drinking water is supplied through a combination of pumped groundwater and purchased imported water. The city's purchased and imported water from municipal water districts of Orange County. To pump groundwater, the city must pay a groundwater pumping assessment fee to Orange County Water District for each gallon of groundwater pumped. This chart shows unit cost per 1 acre foot of water. That's a standard unit for purchasing or essentially purchasing water. So the top line of this graph shows the cost of purchasing imported water from municipal water district of Orange County has increased substantially since our last rate increase 6 years ago. While the lower line on the graph shows that the pumping assessment fee the city must pay has increased substantially over the same time period. However, this graph also shows that using groundwater to meet the city water demand is about half the cost of purchasing imported water. Each year, Orange County Water District establishes a maximum ratio of groundwater versus imported water that can be used to meet annual water demand, which is also known as the basin pumping percentage, or BPP. It is currently set at a ratio of about 77% groundwater versus 23% imported water. To ensure the lowest annual possible operating costs in regards to supplying water, the municipality needs to meet BPP as closely as possible annually. Next slide. Next slide. So the BPP is important because that's how we can establish comparison cost, since we do have to utilize both groundwater and imported water to meet our annual demand. This slide shows how the escalating costs the city must pay for both groundwater purchase and imported water purchase. As shown, the cost to supply 3,350 acre feet of water is $1.85 million back in 2014. Now, as the notes suggest or state, 3,350 is our average annual demand over the last 6 years. And the basin pumping percentage is set at 76%, which is also the average. So that's how we can do a fair apples and apples comparison to 2004 to this year to 2020. So the same 350 acre feet of water in 2020 now costs $700,000 more money than it did back in 2014, which essentially puts our cost for supplying water at $2.55 million. This is the single largest cost item next to personnel to operate a water system. And therefore, it's extremely important to be as efficient as possible. The slide also shows a substantial increase paid to West Orange County Water Board, which is the joint powers authority we must pay to convey water from the MoDOC connection, or the Municipal Water District of Orange County connection, up to the city limit. That actually goes to paying for a pipeline that they operate and maintain. We have a joint. We basically partner with 5 other cities, and that fee has also substantially increased, as the chart shows. Next slide. So I discussed the next item is $16 million needs to be invested into our infrastructure, very critical. And what I broke it down to is water well supply facilities. And it's critical that these facilities, these are the 3 active wells we have to utilize groundwater, which we've already discussed is the most cost-effective way to keep our operating costs as efficient as possible. 2 of our wells are fast approaching the end of their useful life. The 3rd well, and we'll go through details of each one of these, is not operating as efficiently as it could be, and it needs a treatment plant constructed. So let's start with the first item on top, Balsa Chica Wells Supply Well renovation. This is a critical project that is planned for actually start construction later this year. This project, this well was put in service in 1977. It has a capacity of about 3,000 gallons per minute. It's able to pump that much. And it is at essentially, it's reached its useful life, and we can no longer consider it dependable. So it needs to be replaced as soon as possible. We are finishing up the design right now. We'll be out to bid later this winter. And that estimated cost is $2.3 million. The Beverly Manor pump station and water supply well put in service in 1969. Of course, the technology being used is over 50 years old now. So it's essentially at its useful life. And it's going to be replaced, and it should be replaced within the next 5 years. It's a project estimated around $4.7 to $5 million. These two wells are critical to ensure we are able to pump our groundwater to the maximum extent possible. So let's talk about Lamson Avenue well. It's our newest constructed well, brought online in 2011. Has a design capacity of 3,000 gallons per minute. However, this well was designed to essentially take the lead to help offset the load on the two older wells. However, there's a natural occurring sulfide, a natural occurring mineral in the soil in the aquifer beneath the well. And if you pump the well beyond 800 gallons per minute, you will get an odor that essentially needs to be removed. So we can't pump beyond 800 gallons per minute. So we can't pump the design capacity. So to bring this well to the full design capacity, we have to essentially construct a treatment plant that will remove the odor and the natural occurring sulfites that are causing it. And that project is estimated to be $2 million. So these three wells is critical. These projects move forward within the next 5 years, and therefore that's driving the need for the capital money that's part of the rate study. Next slide. Seal Beach Water Distribution System. These are the various components in the system, and each one of these components, there are major projects that are urgently needed within the next 5 years. We'll talk about transmission main piping network, and we have a project that's identified within this next 5-year window that absolutely has reached the end of its life. It's a transmission main that brings water from essentially Westminster on down to First Street through the Hellman Ranch area. That transmission main has reached its useful life. It's failing at the joints, and we're moving forward with a design at this time and going through with the environmental as well. So that project is budgeted at roughly $2.5 million. Distribution piping, we'll talk about that. Right now we have about 50 miles of pipe. We have 50 miles of pipe in the ground. The average service life is about 50 years. A lot of it is in very good shape. However, there's about a mile's worth of cast iron pipe that's approaching 100 years in service. This is all in the Old Town area. And the challenge with these type of pipe replacement is it's in alleys. And constructing in an alley is extremely expensive because you have to go in there and replace the concrete alley after you replace it. It's also very invasive to the residents. So we have a project identified at $1.5 million that needs to occur within the next 5 years. And also water meter replacement. That's another project that's driving our budget. And we have our meters are ranged between 5/8 diameter and 12-inch diameter. So we have the average age of a meter in our city is about 25 years. The challenge with this is meters that age tend to be less accurate. They actually slow down to eventually they stop. So the recommended age for replacement is between right around 17 years, 20 at the most. So we're beyond that. And moreover, these are manually read meters, meaning we have to go up to them. Majority of them are. We do have some touch read meters too, but we have to go up there and manually read them by lifting the lid and reading the actual dial inside the box. And of course, to do it this way, we have 60-day reads. So we're not able really to give residents and customers input on how they're doing with conservation of water. So the city, we have recently completed a study that looked at implementing what is referred to as Advanced Meter Infrastructure Project, and that's AMI meters. And what they do is they have the ability to essentially send a signal to City Hall and can actually read without having to go out and read it. And they have the ability to be expanded to a port where the customer can go online anytime they want, and they can actually gauge how they're conserving water or how they're using water in real time. The project has been budgeted at $3.2 million in terms of estimate. And it's important that we address our aging meters as well. So these are the major highlights of the capital projects that we've identified that we are essentially trying to bring in $16 million of additional revenue to pay for the bonds. And at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Steve Gahan, and he's going to present the financial health and the actual rate study itself. So, Steve, please go ahead.
Thank you. Can I just check to make sure everybody can hear me okay? Can people hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So, so Steve, a point that I think was important that I would like to make again, and I'm not sure if you did it, is you showed all the investment that needs to be made into those wells so that they can pump the groundwater at full capacity. If that investment is not made, then you potentially have to buy more costly water from MoDOT, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so investing in those wells is important. And just to summarize everything, Steve showed you that water costs are going up and that you have quite a bit of capital projects to invest in. So now I'm going to talk about the financial health of your water enterprise with and without rate adjustment. And you can go to the next slide. So a question that we like to answer is, what if the city doesn't do anything? What if they don't adjust rates at all and we just ignore this whole rate study? And so what we're showing you here are two graphs that assumes, of course, that your O&M costs are going to be as given to us by the city, and that you do try to do those capital projects that Steve just mentioned. And if you do nothing, I'm pointing your attention to the bottom graph. We've developed a model for the next 5 years, and you can see in fiscal year 22, would have a small reserve balance. You barely meet your operating reserve goal. And then after that, your balance would shortly go within the following year, your balance would go negative. And that's because up top in the upper graph, that green line that is horizontal, that's your level of revenue. And the bars represent your expenses. So you can see your expenses, if you do nothing, of course, far outstrip your revenue. And you can see the blue area is the rate funded capital that Steve is hoping the city can do, all those wells and the pipes. The blue section of those bars represent that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And then, so what we're proposing here is a series of revenue adjustments or revenue increases, which don't necessarily translate exactly to bill increases. I'll be talking about that at the end of the presentation. But what we're saying here simply is that starting in May of 2021, we're going to set rates so that if they were implemented for a full year, the water enterprise would collect 14% more revenue. But of course, we're implementing them in May, which only leaves 2 months in the fiscal year. So your revenue won't pop up 14%. It's going to pop up much, much less than that. But if those rates were in place for a full year, you would get 14% more revenue. And then the following year, we're saying rates are going to be in place such that you collect 12% more revenue, and then 9, and then 8, and 8 following the next 3 years. We've also assumed an $11 million debt issuance to fund capital in fiscal year 2023. So the main point of that is we're simply just want to point out that the rate or revenue adjustments, the revenue increases alone aren't enough to get all the capital that Steve just talked about done. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And this shows, again, those same 2 graphs that we just looked at. Let's go to the bottom one where it shows your reserves. This is your operating reserve, which is a reserve to pay, your bills and your lights and your supplies. If something were to happen, a human virus or a computer virus, you need 3 months in reserve to pay your O&M expenses. That's the dashed green line in the bottom graph. That's your O&M reserve goal. I consider that a must-meet goal. And then above that, you see a solid green line. That is the summation of your O&M reserve and your capital reserve. The city doesn't actually have a capital reserve, but we're modeling industry standard capital reserves for you. And that standard is 1 year's worth of average capital expenses. So in an ideal world, those blue bars would hit that green line. But staff and everyone is cognizant of, we're trying to minimize bill impacts. So we've minimized the revenue increases. And you can see at the end of the 5 years here, you're not up to your green line goal. You're just meeting your O&M reserve goal. And so another way of saying what I'm trying to say right now is it would be tough to go even lower than this because you're only meeting your operating reserve goal. You're nowhere near your capital goal. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And let's go to the next one after this too. And let's go again, please. There's a couple, yeah. So back in September, we talked about various rate changes that we were proposing, and that was kind of a long presentation. I'm going to keep it at a high level this time around because it would be a long presentation. So, but I'm happy to answer questions. So this is your current rate structure. And on the left, you see you have a water capital fund fixed charge by meter size. And then in the blue, residential pays a tiered rate. So tier 1 is $2.23 per HCF for the first 2,600 cubic feet of water. And then after that, if you use more than 26, you pay $2.88. And then in the green area, you have commercials rates. They're all tiered and they go by meter size. You see that? You got 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, and so on. And the tiers change based on meter size. So that's your current rates. But what we're proposing is what I'll call textbook rate setting, and that's in the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. There's also Leisure World on the right there. You can see Leisure World pays for a 12-inch meter, they pay $7.88, and then they have tiered rates, and then the city pays $2.42 for all their water use per HCF. Okay, now we can go to the next slide. And this is what we're proposing. So there'll be a fixed charge by meter size on the left there. You see the bi-monthly fixed charge by meter size. There's one for Leisure World at the bottom, and then there's one for Aquatic Park, which gets a slightly higher rate because Aquatic Park has this long undersea water line that serves that aquatic park over there. It's costly. It would be costly to replace someday. So Aquatic Park pays a little more. And then in the green, you've got all the commercial, irrigation, city, and aquatic park rates. And that's in dollars per HCF. And then up above, go ahead and hit, forward. Yeah, in the blue, whoops, in the blue, yeah, right there. So in the blue, you have all your residential rates. So up top, you have single family residential. You have 2 tiers there, 0 to 17, 17 plus, 265 and 280. And then you have multifamily, which includes Leisure World. So Leisure World is being treated just like multifamily because it's basically a large multi-dwelling unit complex, right? People living in apartments. So we're treating them no differently than multifamily. And that's their rate there, which is essentially almost the same as single family, a little bit less in tier 2 because they tend to be less. So these are the rates that we're proposing. And let's go to the next slide. Just for the sake of completeness here, the rates in this table, we're setting rates for the next 5 years. Okay, and just keep in mind if City Council decided City Council can always implement the rates up to those shown here, but they could implement something less if they had to. I wouldn't suggest that at this time because of the financial plan that you just saw. I just wanted to put that in your back pocket. You can always go less, but you can't go more, according to Prop 218, okay? So these are the rates for the fixed charge for the next 5 years. And at the bottom there, you see the private fire charges, which are only for those accounts, those large commercial accounts that have private fire protection. That does not apply to single family accounts. Okay, and then in the next slide, you see the 5-year volumetric rates starting in May 2021, and then every January they would go up, and they go up in proportion. If you remember the percentages, it said 14, 12, 9, and 8, and 8. So each year, like in January 2022, those rates that you see in that column are 12% more than the rates in May. And similarly, the ones in January of 2023 are 9% more than the ones in January of 2022, so on, and then 8% and 8%. Okay. So let's move on to the next slide. And I'll pause at the end of water for questions before we move into wastewater. Okay, so this next slide is bi-monthly bill impacts for water alone. And after this, we're going to do wastewater, and then we're going to look at the combined bill impact. So what this graph is showing you on the right here is, let's look at the rightmost orange bar. There's a roughly 4,000, more than 4,000 water accounts. What this is saying is that roughly 1,100, a little more than 1,100, their water bill alone will change anywhere from no change, $0, up to $5. So 1,100 accounts will see up to $5 of an increase in the water bill. And then 1,500 accounts will see anywhere from $5 to $10 increase in their bill. And then if you allow me to round, 1,300 accounts will see anywhere from a $10 to $20 account bill increase. And then you do have a handful of accounts off to the left there that the city needs to investigate. I think there might be a few misclassifications, but there are a few accounts, as you can see, that will have larger impacts. Okay, so that's single family. Let's move on to multifamily in the next slide. Multifamily is a little less homogeneous. You can see multifamily is around 260 accounts. You can see a good, let's add 111. So roughly 200 of those accounts, I'm adding the two tall orange bars, will see anywhere from a $0 to $20 increase in their bill. And off to the left there, you see a handful of other accounts that will see larger bill increases. And some of the bigger ones, like all the way to the left, those are the First Street apartments that are going to see large water increases, but they should also see large wastewater. And again, I think there's a few misclassifications in here that the city will look into. So that's multifamily. Let's finish up with commercial on the next slide. So you can see commercial is kind of more all over the place, if you will. But again, you've got 56 out of your, forget how many commercial accounts there are, but I think it's around 200. So 56, anywhere from a $0 to $5 bill increase, and then 38 from 10 to 20, and so on. You do have a couple large bill increases, and that's all the way to the left there. Those are very, very large water users. That's why their bill is going up so much. These are like, those accounts are like Boeing, and so on. That just use a lot of water. So that's commercial. And what's the next slide? I think the next slide is Leisure World. And I'll point you to the middle where it says monthly average use, or HCF. So Leisure World, on average, their bill will go from 88,000 to 104,000. That's a difference of, I think, 14,000-ish, or maybe a little more, 17,000. And so that comes out to the difference between old bill and new bill is $2.44 per apartment. I'm looking at the column all the way on the right there. So it's the change per apartment is $16. I'm sorry, the proposed cost is $16. I'm rounding the $15.79 there. I'm rounding, and that translates into $2.44 per apartment. Okay, so before we move on, we're going to move on to wastewater, and I think I have some good news for you on wastewater. I just thought I'd see if there's any questions in water before I move on to wastewater, or I can just forge ahead. Okay, hearing none, I'm going to forge ahead into wastewater. Now on wastewater, I'd like to think I have some good news for you. Again, this first slide shows what would happen if you did nothing, no rate adjustment to your wastewater. As you can see in the bottom slide, those blue bars are your reserves, and those lines are your targets. The dashed green being your operating reserve target, and the darker line being the total of your operating reserve and capital reserve. You can see your reserves are higher than your target. So that means the sewer reserve is healthy. So what we're proposing in the next slide is actually a revenue decrease. We're actually going to set rates so that the sewer enterprise will collect less money. And I've been doing this for more than a decade, and I can count on one hand how often this has happened. It's less than, I think it's about 3 times this happened in my 10-year career. This doesn't happen often. So I would think this is good news. So we're proposing a revenue decrease, a one-time revenue decrease, as you can see in May there. And then after that, rates would be unchanged, as you can see by the 0 percentages there on the right. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So this slide shows what will happen to your reserves if, with the revenue decrease. You can see at the end of the 5th year there, your wastewater balance, reserve balance, is getting much, much closer to the line, that dark line. So one way of saying this is essentially you could say you're buying down rates because you have healthy reserves, and you're using reserves intentionally, and that's gonna, minimize, and it's gonna decrease the good majority of your wastewater customer bills, as we'll see in a second. Okay, next slide, please. And the next one after this. So again, I'm gonna try to keep this high level, but your current wastewater bill is a function of your water bill. So in the first bullet there, you can see a customer's bill is 22% of the water bill. And the water bill is your water service charge plus your water capital charge. And then you add a sewer capital charge to that to create your total bill. And that sewer capital charge is on the right in that table. It's by meter size. You can see it goes up. The blue part is residential, and then the green lower table is commercial. You can see at the higher meter sizes, you know, there's some good charges there at 6-inch and 8-inch. And you actually collect 75% of your sewer revenue. Okay, 2.1 out of 2.8 comes from this sewer capital charge. And we're just finding that this sewer capital charge, it does still exist out there, but more and more, I've been doing this for a decade, the industry as a whole has been moving away from it because it charges customers in proportion to their water meter size, which is a surrogate of potential sewer use. Okay, and what we're proposing here, this slide, go ahead and hit next. We're proposing a more equitable rate structure that I think does a better job of charging in proportion to estimated sewer use. And the way we estimate sewer use is by looking at each customer class's discharge to the sewer, okay, as evidenced by water use, okay? And the reason why we're doing that is because you can have some customers who have a large meter and not all of that water ends up in the sewer. Okay, just for one example, and you probably have others, consider a park with a meter, 2-inch meter, maybe it's a 3-inch meter, who knows? And that park, a lot of the water ends up on the lawn. It's only got maybe a couple of restrooms. You know, they're just not using the sewer system yet. So generally speaking, this concept of charging by how much you use is a little more equitable. This is definitely more equitable. So you're going to see soon in the bill impacts that they're kind of all over the place. That's a function of going from your current charge, which relies heavily on this fixed charge by meter size, that goes to now one that's more proportional to use. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. And here's the proposed rate structure. So for single family on the left table there, right now, the average single family bill is about $59 and change, okay? What we're proposing after this 25% decrease is a fixed charge for all single family. So each single family home, regardless of how much they use, would pay $48 and change, okay? And we're doing this because one big reason we feel this is equitable is because the Seal Beach doesn't provide treatment. Seal Beach is a collection agency. You guys just maintain a collection system that takes everybody's sewage and transmits it to Orange County Sanitation District. And because there's no treatment component, it is common enough, it's common to simply have one charge for a single family home. So it would go from on average 59 down to 48. And then for all your other classes, multifamily, commercial, and city, on the right there, they would pay $1.22, a fixed charge, which essentially covers your billing staff. So this is the cost for your billing staff to send out bills, answer calls, and that sort of thing. And then everybody would pay $4 per 100 cubic feet of water that they discharge to the sewer. So I think this greatly simplifies your sewer rate structure. And let's take a look at, well, actually, before we look at bills, let's look at Leisure World, which is in the next slide. Go ahead and, yeah. So as you know, Leisure World right now doesn't pay for sewer, and even though there's I'll call it a pipeline near Leisure World that transmits sewage over to the Orange County Sanitation District. So there is a cost to over time maintain and replace that sewer line. And so what we've done is we worked with staff to create a rate that reflects the capital cost of that pipe, which is about $1 million. Staff estimates it'll last 80 years, plus we added a nominal annual O&M cost. And then we prorated that for the amount of sewage that goes into that pipe. So that 95% there, we're simply saying that there are some other customers that use this pipe that's near the 495 and bring the sewage to Orange County San. 5% of the sewage that goes into that pipe is not from Leisure World. So we're taking 95% of those costs, and it ends up being let's just call it $1,100. And that's a monthly charge. Okay, that has nothing to do with how much is being used. That's a monthly fixed charge for Leisure World. Let's go to the next slide. Oh yes, and to finish up all the rates, we also evaluated the Navy sewer rate. And right now they pay 7 cents per 100 cubic feet of sewer discharge. And we're proposing a monthly fixed charge of 61 cents, which is essentially that $1.22 you saw. The Navy is billed monthly. Everybody else is billed bi-monthly. So that 61 cents is just $1.22 split in half. And then we propose a monthly volumetric rate of 24 cents per HCF. And the way we arrived at this is we looked at that. There's a sewer main, if you will, that the Navy uses on Seal Beach Boulevard, and it takes sewage down to near PCH, and from there it's pumped to a high point on Seal Beach Boulevard, and there it's gravity drained back down to near the 405. I think I've been saying 495. I apologize. I meant the 405. And so we've looked at the capital and O&M costs to maintain that pipe, and then we prorated again the flow, because that pipe is not only used by the Navy, it's also used in nearby residential areas near the Navy housing on Seal Beach Boulevard. So those residential areas also use that pipeline, and we prorated that based on flow as best as we can, looking into your sewer master plan. Okay, so that's how we came up with the 24 cents. So in the next slide, again, just like water rates, we're showing you the rates for the next 5 years. So you can see in May, single family would drop to $48. Leisure World would be up close to 11, and then that would be the rates for the next 5 years. Okay, and that's the same thing for the other customer cap classes below, where everybody pays $1.22 fixed charge bi-monthly, and then $4 per HCF discharge to the school. So the rates, all these rates would stay the same for the next 5 years, which again is not all that common, right? Steve showed you that your rates, your costs go up every year, labor costs, your electricity costs, and so on. So to hold them steady for 5 years, I think I'll just say notable. So let's go to the next slide, which is wastewater bill impacts. Let's go to the next one. So the next few slides show, again, just for bill impacts. As you can see, this is single family. So you've got a big bar there in the middle. Essentially what this is saying is all single family sewer bills will go down to some degree, anywhere from $0 to $25. And then there's some, because they were using more water, will go down a little bit more. Okay, that's single family. Let's look at multifamily, the next slide. And as I mentioned, multifamily is much more all over the place, but I'm looking at the middle of the slide there, where it says, I'm looking at the bar with the 24 above it. Or no, let's go to the 13. So all the multifamily customers that fall within 13 and to the right, all their bills will go down. So what's that? That's like 30, 40, 56, 66, 70, let's just say, maybe like 90-ish. About half of your customer bills will go down, and then to the left of the 13, those bills will go up. And again, these are the function of now we're charging in proportion to sewer use. Okay, so those that are on the left there, the number 4, some of those big bill impacts, these are big water users. And the city, some of these accounts, they may petition you, and Steve is going to work with these accounts in case, let's say they have a big, a lot of irrigation. then Steve and his staff would take into account the fact that they have a lot of irrigation. He would adjust what's known as return to sewer factor. So the public works staff would work with some of these accounts to make sure that all their water is going back to the sewer. And if not, the bill would be adjusted. That's multifamily. Let's move on to commercial. And you can see a good chunk of your commercial accounts would go down again. I'm looking at the 175 there. So 175 of all of your commercial accounts would see either no change in their bill or a big bill decrease. Okay, and you've got some that are fairly sizable decreases. I think the ones on the right are the First Street apartments. And then on the left, again, you've got a few that are going up. And again, Steve and staff would, if they have any sizable irrigation, he would review and work with those customers. But again, a lot of these are likely high water use customers. We're talking Boeing, or any other really large water users are off to the left there. We're charging in proportion to sewer discharge. You're seeing some of these larger impacts. And I think to finish up with Leisure World. So as you know, Leisure World does not pay a charge, so they'll go from paying nothing to $1,100, if you allow me to round here. And that is, so essentially they're going from paying nothing to 17 cents per dwelling unit if you divide by 6,608 dwelling units. That's 17 cents per dwelling unit. Okay, so that was wastewater. And lastly, we have what does it look like for combined water and wastewater bills. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah, so now we're just combining those two. This is water and sewer for single family. As you can see, for single family, you know, this is good news. Bills are going down. I don't say this often for all my clients around Southern California to say your combined bills are going down. I wish I said this more often, and I think my presentations would be better received. So that's single family. Let's move on to multifamily. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just putting this into numbers. Okay. Your current bill for single family water and wastewater is about $130, and it's going to go down a little less at $5 and change. Okay. So this is your average bill, $130 to $125. Allow me to round. Okay. So the next slide is multifamily. Multifamily, of course, is more all over the place. I'd say more good news. You see a good chunk of your customers are 0 to 25 there, with quite a few on the right, bills going down and some bills going up to multifamily. Let's finish up with commercial. Commercial is decent news. 68% of your commercial customers will see no change or a bill decrease. So that's the 126 there. 126 of your 200 something commercial customers will see a bill, either no change or a bill decrease. And then lastly, we've got Leisure World, I believe. What I did here is we put it on a per dwelling unit. So the average so the bill increase on average for water for Leisure World is $16,000, and then the fixed surcharge is $1,100. Add those two together, 17,000, divide by the number of dwelling units. So the increase per dwelling unit per month is $2.61 for Leisure World. And lastly, we have the next steps. And so I think I'll turn it back over to Steve here, but I think Steve is looking for approval to proceed with the Proposition 218 to mail out the Proposition 218 notice so that there can be a public hearing for these rates on February 22nd, 2021. Back over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. So the next steps are what Steve just described. The plan is to go out with the actual Proposition 218 notice. It will go to print later this week, and it will be sent and should be in the mail boxes early January or late December. I don't have the exact date yet. I'm still working with the production company on that, but it'll be in that range. They have to be out in 45 days prior to February 22nd, and that would put us at the first week of January. So they must be out the door by then. So that's the schedule we're on. And that is then we have the hearing, and of course that's the staff report kind of describes the process in that. It'll be, and also the notice itself. At this point, as the notice states, it'll be a virtual hearing, and the instructions are incorporated into the notice itself as attached. And I believe that is next. Can you do the next slide, please? And that's our presentation. So is there any questions?
Okay, are there any questions for Steve Miter or Mr. Gagnon?
I have some. This is
okay. Tom Moore?
Could you go back to slide 22?
I think you've
You're going the wrong way.
Forward. Yeah.
Could you just explain, like, on those three bars, what you have the 1258, 1539, 1156? What is that the water usage that's determining those different households?
No, the numbers you see on top of the bars are the number of customers. So
yeah, but how are those determined?
Oh, we calculate a before and after bill for all your customers, and then we do a frequency distribution of them all. And so what you're looking at is the frequency distribution of bill impacts for all your single family.
Oh, okay. So you're looking at everyone's bill and what would happen afterwards.
Yes, before and after.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And then I have a few more questions on the notice that we're sending out to the residents.
Sure.
On the second page, it was a little confusing to me in table B to see the current proposed monthly wastewater rates charges, and then bi-monthly, in the tables underneath. It was a little confusing how that read. So, I don't know if there's a way to clean that up.
We got some comments from city staff today, and if you have any comments, we'd be happy to incorporate them. We've already incorporated some changes to table B, so perhaps they're already reflected, but we're happy to make any you may have.
Okay, the other item was, let's see. Yeah, there's certain areas like College Park West and Leisure World that have a little different aspects. And I was wondering in the notice if there should be a footnote next to table C that just says, a star next to wastewater, that this may not apply to certain areas like College Park West.
This is Steve Miter. That's a really good note. Now we'll definitely incorporate that. I totally understand what you're conveying. Absolutely.
Okay. And yeah, with Leisure World as well, like the wastewater is going to be calculated a little differently and so on. So.
Yeah, those are, Councilman Moore, those are excellent comments. We'll make sure we incorporate.
Okay. And in the table C, you show the proposal for 2021. Should there be, till 2025 in the example, just so people are aware that it's going to go up for several years?
Yes, and we'll do that. In fact, I think we've already done it.
Oh, okay. And then last item, it was pointed out there, the last few meetings we had, there's a potential issue with the city non-payment for water on city property. Could staff just do a little more research and get back to council on the impact of the city's previous water payments in relation to the Prop 218, and just get back to the council on if it's inconsequential or if there's something that we need to look at?
Yes, we'll definitely look at that.
Okay, and that's all my questions.
Sure.
Okay, did anyone else have any other questions? Okay, seeing none. This item is receive and file, so I guess we don't need to show anything. Okay, thank you very much for a very detailed presentation. Okay, now we're going to take our 5-minute break, so we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
What are we waiting for?
I don't know. Are we ready to go?
We're ready when you are.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I was going to get a text or something. Okay, going to move on to new business. Item N, hourly wages for part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees. I'd like to call upon Assistant City Manager Patrick Gallegos.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. On January 1st, 2021, California's minimum wage will rise to $14 per hour and is mandated by state law to continue to increase to $15 per hour by 2022. In order to remain in compliance with the state of California's minimum wage order, the city is requesting adoption of a revised salary schedule for part-time, seasonal, and temporary employees for 2021. For 2021, we have provided the council with 2 options tonight to consider, and potentially a third option submitted to us by a resident earlier today. This first option would be to push only those classifications under $14 per hour above that threshold, while maintaining a 5% separation between their steps. This is the method council approved earlier this year for the 2020 part-time pay schedule. The cost of this option is estimated to be approximately $30,572 for 2021. The second option would be to push classifications above the $14 per hour threshold, while at the same time providing a 5% separation between steps and grades for all classifications. The cost of this option is approximately $130,880 for 2021. A third option, as I mentioned, that was presented to us earlier today and has been proposed by the resident, is to push only classifications under $14 per hour above that threshold and provide no step increase for grade 2, step 2, and grade 2, step 3. It would also not provide a step increase for grade 4, step 2. We do not have cost estimates for this option. However, it would presumably provide some savings. Option 1 is the method council adopted for 2020 and would provide savings, but there are also some drawbacks with this option. That is, this option is not in line with best practices, as it does not uniformly separate grades and steps by 5%. This option also does not put the city in the best position to recruit and retain experienced and the most qualified employees, since compensation remains mostly static. Option 2 is the highest cost option amongst the 3. However, it is in line with best practices, as it provides more uniform separation between grades and steps. It also makes the city more competitive when trying to recruit and retain qualified and experienced employees. There's an old adage that many of you have heard that says you get what you pay for. And in many respects, that adage holds true when hiring and retaining employees. I should also add that the following classifications on the current part-time pay schedule have not seen a raise since 2016. And those are account clerk / meter reader, intern, aquatics coordinator, beach lifeguard, beach operations supervisor, equipment operator, executive assistant, junior lifeguard coordinator, rescue boat operator, mechanic, maintenance worker, pool manager, recreation coordinator, and recreation specialist. So option 2 might be seen as an investment in the city's ability to retain and recruit the most qualified and experienced employees. And given that many of the classifications have not received a raise since 2016, we would be more competitive in that regard. Option 3 is the one provided by the resident, like I said earlier today, and the most austere of the 3 options. While it potentially provides the most savings, it would not place the city in the most competitive position or be in line with the best practices, since compaction issues become more prevalent between grades, especially when providing no step increases for certain classifications, as this proposal recommends. In addition to that, the large majority of classifications pay remains unchanged. We'd also be penalizing those in the lower grades, since they would not be afforded the ability to get a step increase after 1 year of service, while others in higher classifications would have the ability to obtain a step increase, creating a sort of haves and have-not situation. If staff were to only look through a financial lens, we would be advising the city to freeze steps across the board, since that would be the most cost-effective. But fortunately, we are in a position to not have to do that. And so we are attempting to balance the city's finances with the expectations of the community to have qualified employees who are passionate and knowledgeable about their jobs, and in turn will continue to improve the quality of life here in Seal Beach. As you know, part-time employees in Seal Beach are critical to providing day-to-day services to our community, many of which are continuing to do double duty as a result of the impacts of the pandemic, including those related to staffing impacts. I wanted to provide you with a real-world example of the recruitment and retention challenges that we've had more recently. So I've asked Marine Chief Joe Bailey to share with you some of those examples. Chief Bailey?
Thank you, Patrick. My comments on this are I wanted to point out the difficulty in recruiting quality employees for the lifeguard department. You know, in 2016, when the starting pay rate was $18.17, that was higher than Long Beach. It was higher than Huntington Beach, our 2 major competitors. And now since we haven't had a raise since then, we're dragging so far behind that it's difficult to recruit and train part-time employees. And just as a reminder, so this is at the beach, but then at the pool also this year, you know, with the COVID pandemic, we've had a lot of need to have more hours of adult lap swim. And I had to cut back our hours because we couldn't recruit and maintain pool lifeguards. So not only at the beach, but at the pool. And we've fallen behind our competitors, Long Beach and Huntington Beach, in our pay rates. And I would urge you to look at option number 2 as a way to improve our ability to recruit and maintain our employees. We have some issues with this pay scale, but ultimately the biggest one is when we haven't seen a raise since 2016. It really has hindered us in trying to get the best employees. And I just wanted to point out one other thing. If you recall, I believe it was 2018, our president of the Seal Beach Lifeguard Association spoke to council about this very same thing. And it's just been difficult as we get further and further behind. So I'd urge you to think about the need to have the best employees, especially the beach lifeguards. The starting pay are the guys that are on the tower representing you. They really are the face of Seal Beach. The people who come to the beach speak to the tower lifeguards before anyone else. Thank you, Patrick, and I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Chief. So again, council, tonight's staff report provides you with 2 options. Option 1 is to approve a modified schedule, keeping the same schedule as 2020, making adjustments only to grades 2 through 6, step 1, with an increase from $13 to $14 per hour. This schedule will fulfill the state's minimum wage requirement for those classifications that are currently below $14 per hour. However, does not maintain the current separation between grades 2 through 6, step 1. Grades 7 through 23 will remain unchanged, as noted on attachment D. Option 2, for council's consideration, would approve compensation best practices to maintain a 5% separation between grades and between the steps within each grade. This fulfills the state's minimum wage requirement of $14 per hour, which, as noted in attachment E. Option 2, while costing the city more, would allow us to retain experienced employees and compete with other municipalities who are hiring for many of the same position, including those public service beach lifeguards that the chief just mentioned. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you tonight, council.
Okay, are there some comments for Assistant City Manager?
I have some, Mayor.
Okay, Tom Moore.
Earlier, we were sent a 2019 versus 2020 resolution, the resolution 68907017. To Shelley's question, you'll notice that the only thing that changed is step 1, grade 2. So we're essentially, option 3 is the same thing that we decided in April, not option 1. Just wanted to clarify that. That's not the same option. Option 1 is doing a graded increase to step 1, step 2, step 3. I mean, for grade 2, grade 4, and grade 6, they're all the same step increases. So it's a little different than the option that council approved last April. Just clarifying that. The first question I have is in option 2 and the current option, there's a grade 14 level. This is missing from option 1. Can you explain why?
From option 1, hold on one second. Let me pull up the spreadsheet. So my option, so if you're looking at attachment D, that's option 1. And there you see the grade 14, which is blank. And I have option 2, which is attachment E, and I show grade 14. So it looks like the option 1 just missed placing those numbers in there. It's just kind of a clerical thing. I don't think it was there for missing for any particular reason.
So what is grade 14?
I don't believe there's a position in grade 14, much like if you look at grade 3, there's no position in there. This is to keep what I talked about, the uniformity and separation between grades and classifications going up and across. So typically, traditionally, the way, when I talk about best practices, is there's uniformity across grades going from 1 to whatever it ends. In this case, we're looking at grade 20. You have 5% separation between the grades. You also have 5% separation between steps 1 through 5. Now that's been traditionally the case in Seal Beach. Things have gone a little different as of April in terms of that separation. Now that came about, and that's best practices in some cities. Mostly you'll find 5%, but you'll find some cities that have 2.5% separation, or they can set that standard for whatever percent they want. But my understanding, because I wasn't here at the time when there was a class and comp that was done, this separation was recommended through that study. So that's how that came about.
Okay, it's just a little confusing if there's no position to have that item. But And I think that's all. Mayor, can you come back to me one more time? A few more questions, but I'd like to hear from the other council members.
Sure. Councilmember Vera Papa, did you have questions?
Yeah, just briefly, you mentioned that there wasn't a raise for how long?
Since 2016 for the classifications that I mentioned.
And why was that, for the record?
Well, you know, when we've gone to council, you know, they received,
Because we were on the council and there wasn't.
yeah, so we've taken this pay schedule to council the last, well, since that time. The state has passed rules mandating that cities get to $15 per hour. So each year we've taken this to council with the intent to get above that threshold. So in 2017, I believe it was $11 an hour, and then subsequently $1 after that for each of the years until 2022, where we ultimately get to the $15 an hour range. So when we present these tables to the council, in some cases, we're, you know, like our goal is to provide 5% separation between the classifications, and with the ultimate aim of getting everybody above the hourly wage that's mandated by the state. Now, if the council wanted to provide increases to potentially to other, you know, for example, like what Chief Bailey was mentioning, beach lifeguards, that could be done. And it hasn't been proposed. The council obviously has the ability to do that at any time, and it just hasn't been done.
Okay, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Marcel Lava, did you have questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I think that we made a mistake last time we took a look at this, and we're not equitable in terms of allowing step one to receive a raise. I hope that we can remedy that now. After 4 years, I think it really is unconscionable that the city has, the city councils have taken that approach of not caring about our poor entry level people. They got to start somewhere, and step one is it. And it sounds as though, in terms of lifeguards anyway, that there's a real problem there. And I'd like to remedy that. And those are my comments.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Kalmik, did you have questions?
Not necessarily questions, but also a comment somewhat in line with Councilwoman Masalavitz, in that, you know, we're walking a fine financial line here. We are certainly restricted in our budgetary ability to do a lot of things, but as we do have various labor groups that are represented, we do negotiate, and we do offer raises through that process. Now we're dealing with a group who have no representation per se, who are our entry-level people. We're not offering any ability to show them that there may be value in staying working for the city, even in a part-time position. And I think that it is unfair, and that it's more than just fiscal responsibility. You know, these are people that we hopefully value their work, and there is a cost, a fiscal cost, if you have to go out and try and replace them on an ongoing basis, the time that it takes to train them, whether it's driving a tractor or, you know, digging trenches. And I think it's important that we recognize that, and I would like to remedy that situation as well. Thank you.
Okay. I do have comments. I've been on council 4 years, and I have been here during that time. I did ask, I believe, back what would have been 2017, I guess, when we had the raises start. Well, what is going to happen to the rest above what we were doing? And I believe the answer was that would be solved when we got to the class and comp study. Well, that didn't happen. And then I believe I've tried to be in support of for the lifeguards, but there hasn't been a session to work out. This last time we said no, and my main objection that was an increase over 3 years, and I was wanting to deal with it for a 1-year thing. But I thought I thought we had indicated that we wanted it to come during the budget time, that this was going to be looked at. Well, it didn't happen over the budget, and I don't want it to have to wait for the next budget. But I've been unhappy with these combination solutions where we're trying to raise the minimum wage and also somehow throw things together. It seems to me to be uneven, and that the lower end are getting quite an increase compared to what's happening to the higher levels. So I would actually like to do what we have to do right now for January 1, and then come back on our first meeting in January on the 11th and take a look at just an equitable increase. Everyone else gets a COLA. For our full-timers, our part-timers should have this. They should have had an increase, something that would even them out and make it equitable. This wonky thing of where all the lower ones are getting compacted doesn't seem right to me. And option 2 helps, but it's not equal. It's not equal for everyone either. So anyway, those are my comments. Tom, did you have more comments?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's trying to put two different items together where we're trying to solve the minimum wage mandate. At the same time, we're trying to give some raises. I think they need to be separated into two different items. And we did vote 4-1 in April to adjust just the steps and stages necessary up to the minimum dollar amount. And I don't think much has changed regarding the pandemic, and there continues to be a lot of uncertainty. The main reason for this item is that we're responding to a state mandate and increasing the minimum wage necessary from the state. And I suggest we only adjust what is necessary for the steps up to the $14 an hour, like we voted previously in April. However, I do agree with Shelley. We should have a separate item to discuss the part-time salaries during budget time or sooner, to make sure lifeguards, recreation staff, and others are paid appropriately. But I don't think the state mandate should be the instrument that is used to give across-the-board raises. We should look at other cities, compare salaries for those part-time positions, and discuss it as a separate item. So this is not the proper time, in my view, to give raises across the board. And if you look at the current part-time schedule, I'd motion that we update step 1, 2, 3 of grade 2 up to $14 an hour, step 1 and 2 of grade 4 up to $14 an hour, and step 1 of grade 6 up to $14 an hour, and leave the rest of the schedule as is. And that will ensure we're in compliance with the state's mandate, and then we could address the other issues separately.
Okay.
That's my motion to basically everything under 14 to bring it up to 14.
Okay, is there a second on that motion? Okay, I'll make the second. Further discussion?
I'd like to ask in that motion, what happens to our entry-level people? The lifeguards, our part-time rec people that haven't gotten a raise in 4 years as well. The people are, these are the people that are delivering Meals on Wheels. You know, they're doing all kinds of things that are really outside of their job description that are being necessary because of the COVID issue.
I agree with you.
And these people are here. They're doing their job.
I agree. It shouldn't be on this item. Should be a separate discussion.
No, I don't think it should be. So we've discussed this before. We discussed it last time. We're discussing it now. And I think we should consider that this evening. And let's get it done and get these people the kind of salary that they deserve.
I don't think we did discuss it at all last time. I think that's the problem. I'd actually like to see an item on January's calendar where agenda where it could be discussed fairly. I think actually if you looked at an equity COLA where everyone looked at what they haven't gotten over the 4 years and divided up, I think the lifeguards and the recreation staff would get a bigger increase than that proposed in option 2. I think they would get, instead of you know, an 8% or maybe a 12%, I don't know, it would be more, I think it would be more in line. Now, I'm not an expert on payroll. That's why I would like to have a better look at what they would have gotten, because option 2, I think, is like an 8% raise, which is 2% across. I think they would do better if we compared to what our full-timers or what these steps have done. I think it would be a better deal for them, and I would just like to look at it. But I don't want to wait till budget time. I would like to do it on January, make it retroactive to the 1st. It's the same time period, just a different separate look instead of this kind of wonky way of looking at it.
Well, can we ask Patrick how he looked at it? Was it a wonky way of looking at it, or was he looking at, you know, comparable cities and comparable fees and
yeah, to answer your question, Councilmember Verapapa, I don't think we look at anything in a wonky way. Just to be clear, I think we spend a lot of time and effort, and not just myself, but team members across departments on a lot of these items, and this one is specifically. In terms of, to go back to what Shelley was saying, or I'm sorry, the mayor was saying regarding the class and comp, there were a couple of impediments that delayed sort of coming back to you in the way in which originally we had intended. One of them was Measure BB, as well as the current pandemic. So as you know, this is a state mandate that is required. And of course, we want to be in compliance with the law come 2021. But just for clarification purposes, so the recommendation that's on the table right now, presented by Councilmember Moore, would like to have, for example, grade 2 crossing guard maintenance aid. For step 1, $14 an hour, step 2, $14 an hour, and step 3, $14 an hour. Is that the motion that's on the table, just for clarification purposes?
Yes, it is, until we come up with a better method.
So, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I mean, going back to Councilmember Verapapa's question, I mean, just point blank, we spend a lot of time on this effort. So I'm not sure how to answer that question, but there was enough research between the city manager's office and finance to come up with these numbers and these options for you. You know, we have this similar option to what happened in April, as well as an option that we think is in line with best practices, as well as provides some increases for part-time employees who we feel are deserving of that compensation for their efforts. But that is not my decision. I only can provide you recommendations. If the council decides to do something else, by all means, we will look into that as well.
Patrick, just for clarification on the part-time, the structure of the part-time salary schedule, the classifications and the steps, is it not consistent with the same structure that we have for our full-time employees?
Right, it wouldn't be consistent. You're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments?
The financial impact, can you go into a little bit more of that, Patrick, or is that?
Yeah, certainly. I can provide you, as I mentioned earlier, the first option, the cost came in at approximately $30,500. And for option 2, it's $130,880 approximately for both of them for 2021.
Do you think if you went back, you would find significant discrepancies, as Mayor Sistarsik was referring to, in getting more pay for other services, or would it be pretty comparable to what you have here?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do this thing. We could definitely find grades where, if there was some inflationary basis for doing increases, or some other basis for providing increases, that may certainly mean higher or lower increases for some grades. Without the ability to do that research right now, based on the comments that are made by Councilmember Moore and Mayor Sistarsik, I can't give you a direct answer. I can only tell you that these two options are provided based on historically what we've done in the city. And yes, it does kind of accomplish both in one fell swoop, in that it meets the mandate as well as provides increases, which we think are reasonable, given that all of the classifications that I noted in my earlier presentation that haven't received increases since 2016.
Well, if I look at what option 2 does compared to 2016, it looks like grade 2 has an increase of over 30%, grade 4 25%, grades 6 and 7 a little under 20%, grades 9 and 10 about almost 14%, grades 12, 13, 15, 16, 17 about 8%, and 17 and 20, 10 and 14%. So to me, it looks like grades 12 through 17 have the lowest increase of all, which includes beach lifeguards. And I'm sure it's an increase. I'm sure everybody would be happy to get an increase. It just seems to me like it's weighted more on the low end, and that's because the minimum wage has been increased in those levels, but not in the, there's been no increase in the higher levels. So that was my point. It's just to try actually to be more fair to the lifeguards, but I'm not against giving them an increase at all. Just it seems like there's compaction or skewage or whatever you call it because of the mandate to increase the minimum wage at the low end. So that's just my observation.
Are you saying that if Chief Bailey went back and looked at his numbers a little closer, there's a potential for a bigger increase? Is that what you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not Patrick. I don't know the way these things are done. I just see what the percentage increase is to those compared, you know, and it's not Patrick, it's just because they keep we've kept increasing the low end, and so they keep getting higher and higher salaries while the people that are a little higher up have gotten nothing. So I have nothing against the crossing guards. It's just it just doesn't seem to be as fair or as equitable to me as just maybe looking at them separately. That's all. I'm not trying to say how to do something because I don't know how to do it. I'm just looking for fairness and you know, compensation. I don't know how we compare to other cities. I was just trying to give those middle grades their equal, you know, what looks to me to be an equal or proportional share.
Well, you're only basing it on the percentage increase, or you're basing
Yeah,
it?
I was just basing it on percentage increase. I'm not basing it on anything else. It just seemed to me.
When you're making $10 an hour, you know, $1 is you know 10% increase. I mean, it's an increase, 1% increase. So it's
Yeah. Well,
kind of,
I don't know. To
I
me,
mean,
it
it's
looks
kind
like
of
there
not a
might be a
good
difference
margin to
between
measure as far as
8%,
percentages are concerned.
8% and 12%. I don't know.
I don't know, but I think, you know, if you know, trusting what Patrick says and Chief Bailey, you know, knows, it's, you know, I would imagine they put the numbers accordingly to what they think, A, the market value is, and B, what they need to sustain, you know, their staff. You know, I mean, I hate to delay this even longer than we've already done. And I mean, this is the perfect time to talk about it, and that's what we're doing. So, I mean, if you think they want more money, we can always give them more money when the budget comes up again, I guess, if you think there's an opportunity to give them another pay raise on top of that.
Well, I
But
suppose
I think at a minimum, we got to support our staff. And I've gotten, you know, the luxury of working with a lot of these people in the Parks and Rec lately, and I see what a great job they're doing. And I see the crossing guards out there every day with their mask on. And we've all seen pictures of everyone delivering Meals on Wheels.
And Mike, but 1 month is not that.
Under these certain times, but it's time to talk about it. So let's talk about it and figure it out. I mean, I don't know. You want to delay it and then delay it again, and then, you know, January comes up. Everyone's going on vacation in 2 weeks, and then you're going to talk about it in January. Then that's going to be delayed because it may not be soon enough to get the numbers back. But, you know, I'm for moving forward, but, you know, it's up to the council. So.
Let me repeat myself. The main issue I have with this is we're combining a mandatory mandate by the state with a raise that's kind of across the board with a % increase for all the different levels. So I think we're in the agreement that we should do something for lifeguards, just not in this method. So that's my objection, is the method that's used is across the board for all the different positions. And I think it needs to be looked at separately from the mandate.
Are you saying, Tom, that there should be a penalty for getting a step raise and the dollar raise that the state is mandating? I mean, that you can't have both, you can only have one?
What I'm saying is this item was brought forward because of the mandate from the state of California, because of the $14 minimum. But we're combining two different issues and trying to give raises to across the board to all the different levels, where that should really be a separate issue.
I think I disagree.
You're welcome to disagree.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, is there any more discussion, or did we want to call the question, or?
I'll call the question.
Okay. City Clerk, could you take the vote by roll call?
Yes. Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalnick, how do you vote?
No.
Councilmember Vera Papa, how do you vote?
No.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
No.
Does somebody, actually, I was going to vote the other way. Does somebody want to make a different motion?
Before making another motion, do we have a consensus that our council is interested in taking a look and doing something about the pay schedules for our lowest paid employees, regardless of the state mandate? Yes, the state mandate is something that we have to do, which hopefully many of us think is the right thing to do. And then we're now also talking about what do we want to do beyond that to not just express largesse, but to take note of the fact that we're having more difficulty in retaining necessary, but the lowest employees on the rungs of the ladder. We want them, and do we want to pay for them? And that's the bigger question. And if there's a consensus that that is in fact what we want to do, then I don't want the can kicked down the road. You know, if we say, okay, we got to take care of the mandate and raising the people who will be, as of January 1st, not up to the $14 an hour minimum, fine, let's take care of that. But I would like some assurance that in January that we would be perhaps getting a little bit more information of the spread, what the net costs will be to our budget, but moving forward with the idea that we want to take care of our historically lowest paid employees.
I think we have consensus on that.
Yeah, I think we do. Okay.
Then if that's the case, then, you know, excuse me, I would be interested in taking care of what we have to take care of, which is to change the scale to bring the what will be below $14 an hour up to that. And at the same time, have an agenda item scheduled at the first meeting in January to at least see where we are, meaning are we in a position to have that discussion and make decisions at that time, or what information are we still needing to get from staff, but to not kick the can down the road to a date uncertain.
That's what I suggested.
I'll
Well,
definitely ask Patrick if he can, you know, has the information at that time. I mean,
Or second meeting in January, but making it retroactive to the 1st of January. Can we do that?
Yeah.
I would like that.
I mean,
We can definitely attempt to do that. I know we're back on January 4th, coming back from the holiday closure, but certainly we can get that on the docket. For clarification purposes, again, going back to, I think what Councilmember Moore had originally stated was he wanted to get everyone above that $14 an hour threshold. In doing so, he asked for grade 2, step 1 and step 2 and step 3 to be $14 an hour, step 4 to be $14 an hour, for grade 4, step 1, and grade 4, step 2, $14 an hour, as well as grade 6, step 1 at $14 an hour. The only reason I asked, going back to the steps, there are no increases in between steps, and that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, is the fact that It is unusual not to have an increase in between those steps. Now, that might be a temporary thing until if the council decides to review this again in January. But it's an unusual salary schedule that doesn't provide an increase between steps. While on the latter half, those that are grade 7 and higher have the opportunity to get step increases.
I think you have to have the step increases. I don't see why there would be a problem with that if we're starting at $14 an hour January 1st.
Yeah, so like I said, it's the council's decision, but going from grade 2 step 1 to grade 2 step 3, so after a year of service, going from $14 an hour to $14 an hour. Now, this may be just a procedural move. Obviously, if the council decides they want to look at this and from a different angle, that can certainly be done. But I wouldn't recommend having a pay schedule that doesn't have an increase from one step to the other.
I agree with that.
So
What's the motion?
Can I ask
You
a
sure
question?
can.
So does attachment D, the option 1, does that do sort of what Tom suggested, but gives some increases between steps?
That is correct.
As a temporary measure?
Yes, it does.
Grade 1 through 6.
Yes, so in attachment D, you'll find that not only are we pushing folks above that $14 an hour threshold, but they're also the 5% separation between those classifications, grades 1 through 6.
Correct.
So maybe if I can suggest that the council may want to discuss option 1 as presented by staff, as well as considering having staff come back in January to review the secondary issue, which is having a more equitable compensation table for the rest of the part-timers. Along with all the cost analysis, that is.
And tell us what it would cost, what it's going to cost then. Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah, and Mayor, if I could, not having had the opportunity to talk about what the council's proposing tonight with Patrick and other pertinent staff, and given that this is the final week before a 2-week are not returning until January 4th, and staff really needing a break, we're not going to be able to commit to the first meeting in January. So I think we can push and have a goal to have it ready by the second meeting, but I really need some time to talk to staff about options here and potential cost analysis before we'd be ready to have a discussion with the council.
I understand. I just didn't want to make it look like I was proposing pushing it off or waiting. I would be amenable doing it the soonest, most practical time.
I would agree with that, as long as we're talking about whatever decisions are made are retroactive to January 1st.
Yes.
Yeah, we would concur with that too. Thank you.
Okay. Does that sound workable to people, or does someone want to try to make a motion, or?
I'll go along with that.
Council member, or I'm sorry, Mayor Starsik, if I may, just to kind of get it going, you might want to make a motion to approve option 1 presented by staff, and then come back when it's decided by the city manager to do so at a reasonable time, to come back with some analysis with a table that provides equity across the table for part-timers with cost analysis for that table or tables if more than one, so that council can consider.
Okay. Okay, that's I can make that motion, I guess. I move we approve option 1 is a temporary, I mean, we approve option 1, but this would be a temporary option because we would come back when staff can manage after vacation to have time to come up with such a proposal and cost analysis. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion. Okay, does somebody want to call the question?
Well, you have a motion.
Yeah,
Vote
okay.
now.
All right, City Clerk, could you please take the vote by roll call? Sorry.
That's okay. Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalmek, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Bear Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalaba, how do you vote?
Yes, reluctantly.
Okay, that carries 5-0. Thank you. Now let's see where we are. We move on to item O, notifying City Council of the charter requirement to form a committee to study and report on the advisability of redistricting the city. Attorney Steele, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I know it seems a little odd to start talking about the next election when we've just finished certifying the results of this year's, but because it is a year that ends in 0, the charter and state law require us to start thinking about the potential for reapportioning the city council districts based on potential changes in census data. The charter has a requirement that you consider this and form a committee starting in the December of the 0 year. That's a bit of a sort of an ancient requirement and is not necessarily consistent with how the census data is coming out recently. So staff is trying to sort of harmonize the charter provision with the reality of the fact that there won't be census data until probably the second quarter of next year. And in fact, state law now says that you cannot adopt new district boundaries until at least August of next year. So there's no particular urgency to considering the reapportionment, and there's no data to look at. So what we're recommending is that you recognize that staff has made you aware of the requirement to study reapportionment when data is available, and that the council give direction to staff to agendize an item for the appointment of a council subcommittee at such time as that data is available. In 2010 and then prior to that in 2000, there was a council subcommittee established to study this issue, so that would be consistent with what's been done in the past. So that's the staff recommendation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Attorney Steele? Okay, any comments by council members? Okay, so we just need a motion to approve?
Yes, just a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Okay, now can I get a motion to approve in a second?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. City Clerk, could you take the vote by roll call, please?
Yes. Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalnick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalavat, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Vera Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Carries 5-0. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item P, approving and authorizing the addition of outdoor volleyball court rental fees in the fiscal year 2020-2021 cost recovery schedule. Director of Community Development, Les Johnson, please.
Honorable Mayor, council members, over the past few months, staff has been contacted by a number of user groups wishing to rent our beach volleyball courts for high school and club practices. As you may know, the city has 10 beach volleyball courts between 1st and 8th Streets, and it also has a volleyball court up at Edison Park, located in College Park West. The city's cost recovery schedule does not currently identify a fee for this type of rental. So as a result, staff has researched the matter and is proposing the addition of fees to the cost recovery schedule specific to the rental of outdoor volleyball courts. The fee amounts are assessed on an hourly basis and by various user groups, which are as follows: youth resident fees at $12 an hour, youth non-resident fee at $15 an hour, adult resident fee at $25 an hour, adult non-resident fee at $30 an hour, and a business use group fee at $60 an hour. These fees would be found within Section 6 of the schedule titled Use of Municipal Athletic Facilities. And the proposed fee amounts are generally consistent with current rental fees for other similar athletic facilities such as basketball courts and tennis courts. And with that, staff is recommending City Council adoption of Resolution 7100. And this concludes my report on this item, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Director Johnson?
So I have a quick question. When you say youth resident fee, is that for like a club or a team or a school, or how is that, or a person? How does that work?
These are by user group, so it would not be a per person, be by the group.
A group, okay, yeah. All right, I just want a clarification on that. And that's like a first come, first served basis?
Yes, sir. It'd be the same way we treat our, the other facilities here. It is by a first come, first served basis.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'd like to call for a motion and a second then, please.
So
Okay. City Clerk Harper, could you please take the vote by roll call?
Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalnick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Vera Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalavat, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, that carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item Q, City Council reorganization. City Clerk Harper, could you please take care of this item?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. This item is to approve the reorganization of the council and elect mayor and mayor pro tem for 2021. The nominations are now open for mayor. Are there any nominations for mayor?
I'd like to nominate Joe Kalmick for mayor.
I will second that.
Are there any other nominations for mayor? Okay, I will now close the nomination for mayor. It has been moved by Councilmember Masalavat and second by Mayor Sistarsik that
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick become mayor for the term 2021.
Okay, could you take the vote?
Yes, I take the vote. Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick, how do you vote?
I guess yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore is yes, okay. Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Councilmember Vera Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries 5 votes yes. Okay, I will now entertain a motion for Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I nominate Mike Verapapa.
Okay.
Second.
Was that you, Sandra, that second?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry, Councilmember Masalavin. Okay, it has been moved by Councilmember Moore and second by Councilmember Masalavit to elect Councilmember Vera Papa as Mayor Pro Tem for the year 2021. I will now open the motion. I will now call for, okay, it's been moved and it's been second. I will now call for the vote. Mayor Sistarsik, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Kalmick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Vera Papa, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Masalabit, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, it has been approved that Mayor Pro Tem for the year of 2021 is Mike Vera Papa.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Okay, all right. It says call upon the new mayor to recognize outgoing Mayor Shelley Sistarsik.
I will,
Okay.
I will be happy to do that. I think that I'd like to say that we could not have had a better person in this role, especially during the pandemic and all of the extra work that you've had to do. And I'd like to present you with this gavel and a plaque
Thank you.
that magically appeared. No, Shelley, it's been what you've had to do is really above and beyond, not just attending all of the various city functions that is the responsibility of a mayor to be at, but to be on the weekly calls with the other mayors and to have to digest all of the various things that are proposed and argue back and forth. I really think that you've done a fantastic job, and I hope that I can do it somewhere near as well. I will work as hard as I can to try and do that.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I said this year I feel like the invisible mayor, but because I'm a voice out there. But I'm sure you'll do a great job as COVID 2.0 there. So it's interesting times, but I'm sure it'll be in good hands. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the rest of the council for wishing this upon me as well.
Good luck.
Okay, and is Tim Whitaker on the call, District Director for Supervisor Michelle Steele?
No, he did not make the call.
Okay, well then we'll move on. Okay, so we're going to adjourn this meeting, but stay there because we've got the successor meeting coming up. I did receive a message though that this Sunday is a birthday. Happy birthday to an original College Park East resident of Bluebell Street. Her name is Darlene Mano, and she actually has a twin sister named Arlene Hayashida, who lives nearby, but she has not been able to see her family because of the pandemic this year, maybe one son. So her son and Randy in San Francisco told me that this Sunday is her birthday. So I wanted to be sure it's a special birthday. He didn't indicate which one, but a special birthday. So I just wanted to wish Darlene Mano of Bluebell Street a very, very happy birthday, and hopefully she'll be able to get together with her family sooner than later, we hope. So anyway, I will adjourn the regular city council meeting, and I will read, for those participating in the special successor agency matters meeting, please stay on the Zoom meeting. All other may now be excused from the meeting. Thank you very much for participating, and good night to everyone except the successor.
I don't remember. Am I on the successor?
Yes, you are.
Oh darn.
Yep.
Okay.